Scout Guide is a print publication that captures the people and faces behind small businesses and communities all over the country. We started the Scout Guide with really a mission to support small businesses and advocate for them as a third party.
Caspari has transitioned from a publishing company to a design house over the past 80 years. Our retail shop in Charlottesville, Virginia, illustrates concepts through color and design and sets the stage for the brand to perform. Caspari is defined by original art, color, and scale. Through the art of trompe-l'oeil, to fool the eye, paper, ceramic, and textiles all play together. The settings in the shop set the stage for our customers to decide their pattern, their price point, and define their style for entertaining with Caspari.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. This has been a runaway success because of all of you, and we really appreciate it. This started with a random idea to see if we could come up with an event concurrent with the Southern Living Idea House that we have done in Keswick. And so I came up with this harebrained scheme, and I said, I'm just gonna call some friends and see if we can pull something together. So we did. And everyone said yes. And so to them, I am deeply grateful. Becky Birdwell, John Bossard, wherever you are, Suzanne Tucker, Alexa Hampton, Lisa Fine, Jane Scott Hodges, all said yes. So we are here, and hopefully, with this being a success, we might be able to do this again and continue conversations on design in Charlottesville. But what I want to say most importantly about an event like this is it's really about sharing. With everyone that's going to be talking today, we have 258 years of experience in the business of design. Something we all love talking about, what we all love doing, but 258 years. So some of that wisdom, hopefully we will share with you today. But I want to just thank some of our sponsors because it can't happen without sponsors. And there's so many sponsors we have at the Idea House for those of you that are headed there, the generosity of so many people. So first we have the Scout Guide. Thank you. We love you wherever you are, girls. Thank you. We love you. Caspari. 3M, Moore and Giles, Aaron Lauder, Monticello, and Tortorella for all the beautiful flowers on the table. So in addition to thanking my friends who answered the call, I want to thank my own staff for spending so much time on this, for Laura, Charlotte, and Paul, and also to Kimberly Power, who's been my assistant for 11 years. She could have worked with Eisenhower and run D-Day, I think. She is so organized, and it couldn't have happened without Kimberly's organization. So what have I forgotten? Anybody? Most importantly, you know that this event I designed to raise money for scholarship in interior design at VCU. And because of all of you, today we raised $50,000 for scholarships. Yeah. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, enough thank yous. Okay, I'd like to introduce my friend Becky Birdwell, who when I asked her, Becky, what do you want me to say about you today? How do you want me to introduce you? She just says, I just run things and I fix things and I'm old. Okay, first of all, she's not old, but she does run things. So anyway, Becky, take it away. Here we go.
Do you guys want to come on up? Come on up. Let's hope I don't trip on the stage before we even get started. Hi, everybody. I'm so pleased to welcome you to the conversation on legacy, a word that holds deep meaning in the world of design. It's something that we're always talking about, seeking, hoping that we can achieve. And these two women, remarkable women, have done just that. Legacy is about more than just beautiful interiors. It's about ideas and influences and traditions that get passed down generation to generation. mentor and to mentee, and how those stories shape the future and hold a future of our field. Suzanne Tucker is recognized as one of the country's leading interior designers. She began her career in London, working, and then moved to San Francisco and was working along the legendary designer Michael Taylor, whose bold and innovative vision left a lasting imprint on American interiors. Suzanne has carried forward in that spirit of creativity, refinement, and California ease into her own celebrated practice, continuing the legacy while creating one of her own. And one thing I will say about Suzanne is that I don't think there's another designer in California who does the type of work you do. I mean, it's really that classic elegance. We think of like beige, nude, beachy interiors in California, and you do the exact opposite. And it's so fabulous, and I'm always in awe of you.
Thank you.
Alexa rewrote my intro for her 5 minutes ago, so here goes. I'm gonna make sure that I get this right. For the last 28 years.
It's much better.
I'm sure. I can't believe that it's been 28 years that you've been doing this. I feel like you're
that
still
I've
a
been
baby.
running it.
I know.
Yeah.
For the last 28 years, which will celebrate its 50th anniversary in 2026. Oh my God, Alexa.
I know how that sentence
She's
works.
for the last 28 years, Alexa Hampton is the president of Mark Hampton LLC, the iconic firm founded by her late father and the beloved designer Mark Hampton. She decorates, designs, writes, and speaks around the world. That's true. She's gone all the time. She lives in roller skates just like this one. In 2023, she was inaugurated into the AD 100 Hall of Fame, and of which there are 40 worldwide. That is not an easy one to get into.
That's right.
No, it's the next part that's the fun part.
10 of which are
Only
women.
10 of which are women.
Only 10 of which
yes.
are women.
Just nonsense.
Looking back or looking at these iconic images from your firm's past, what do they mean to you today? Suzanne, you want to start?
Sure. When we were asked, like, what is legacy? And legacy isn't just about who you worked for or who your father was, or it's also your family fiber and what you bring to your homes. And I think, all of us have had tremendous influence about that and with that. And I think really when you look back in some of these rooms, what still resonates? That's what I always look at. What still resonates? Certainly things look dated, avocado green refrigerators and appliances and, harvest gold. Those were the colors of the 60s and 70s. Those look dated. But I think the importance is it's a cliche word, but it's that timeless quality of what carries forward, I think.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
No.
it. No, we're done.
I
We're
totally
done.
agree. So when we were speaking about this event and we were talking about carrying on our own company's legacies, it occurred to us that yes, that is a macrocosm example of the microcosm that is family. So it is, as you say, the family fabric. So it is when you all are designing your houses, it is keeping that chest of drawers that your mother gave you, or aspiring to a kind of curtain that you enjoyed with your family. You either saw it together or you lived with it, and that through line, it kind of makes sense of all of the interiors, and it's become very. No, I wouldn't say poo-pooed, but traditional design has reemerged only recently from a timeout, from a decades-long timeout.
It really did sort of have a timeout.
And I
coming back.
think this region, and certainly the two of us,
We've never left it.
believe in the validity of, and if we have to find another word, the validity of design that is informed by history, either history large or personal history.
I think that's a really good point. Tell me what it was like when you stepped into these roles. Well, I mean, you were at Michael Taylor, and he passed away, and you stepped into that role, of your own company. What did that feel like? Were you scared?
I was naive.
Which is good, probably.
But what you don't know doesn't necessarily hurt you. But It was actually, it's going to be 40 years next year in '86. Michael died, and it was a very scary time in the world, in San Francisco. It was the height of the AIDS epidemic, and had no idea really that he was going to die, and died
And you
very
said that
quickly.
out of 12, there were only 4 left.
Yeah, out of
in your
12 people in
office.
my office, there's only 4 still living. And yeah, it was
Good morning,
quite,
everybody.
I know, really, I know.
Right?
Really, on an upbeat note here, but it was that moment really where, where the clients were sort of left in the middle of projects, and I got the phone call saying, well, do you want to carry on the business? And I had a 6-month-old baby. And I said, well, my days of working 9 to 5 are sort of over. I've got a baby now. I've got a child, and
now you're working 24/7.
and then little did I know that it means 24/7 when I said yes to starting a company. So, and that was, it'll be 40 years next year, and the rest is now history. But I do think we did start off. We started off initially as we were Michael Taylor Associates, and you wouldn't have believed the catty comments that we got. Like, who do you think you are? But we pretty much realized right away, it's different. Your father, it's your father.
Yeah.
This was not a relative of mine. This was a man I worked for who was quite legendary. And so it was perceived as a bit pretentious that we would take that name. So we very quickly changed it to Tucker and Marks. And because in design, people know, like J.P. Morgan, okay? They know what Mr. Morgan stood for and the bank carries on. In design, it's so much more personal. It is so much more about, who you are, what you do. They knew what Michael Taylor did, but what do you do, Suzanne? So there was that pressure to carry it forward to some degree. I resisted the monograph of protege, and now I don't mind it so much. But I didn't like it at first because it felt like, wait a minute, I'm not just going to copy. And it was much more about what did I learn from that experience in my years in London, and what did I learn that I was now going to bring forward to my work. And I think that's what you need to think about also with your own homes. What are you going to bring forward to your work?
It's what our clients, we need to help them do. We need to help them figure out what they want to bring forward from their past and own it, and own the voice of it, but without jettisoning everything that's come before.
Absolutely.
Without just setting fire to everything they've had or valued.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. I mean, what I'm curious about, like beyond Michael Taylor and your dad, which I want to get back to that, but what role has your broader family legacy, parents, grandparents, even, marriage and children, played? How's that played a role in how you practice design or in your practice?
Well, I realized what a hypocrite I was. That was the first sobering lesson.
That was not the answer I was expecting.
Well, no, I was raised by a very, there was a strictness to our household. You had to know how to live with furniture in the living room. And I would always tell people I worked for prior to having kids, like, oh, well, you have to teach them. And then the minute I had twins, I had like a rubber room. And like, I wouldn't have been shocked if my children were like, what is this, a chair? Like, what do you do with this? So there were some hard truths that I learned. I do not know how to ski. I do not play tennis, but I see houses. I go to libraries. Essentially that's the only thing that we did do. And I've divided it. I do a third of it with my kids. So we'll travel, we'll go to houses and museums, and then we'll give them some euros or whatever and let them loose to get mugged. Yeah. But they only have to do the first part of the day. And then we cut them loose, and then my husband and I continue doing it, and then we all meet after. So it's
I have to turn my
dwindling
husband
a
loose.
little bit. But
he won't even do that much. I mean, he reads newspapers, and I do it. Wait, what about you? Your daughter's a vet, right?
My daughter's a veterinarian.
Yeah.
But she actually has a really good eye.
Good. Don't
And-
you love
Well,
that? when it
isn't that
happens?
what we're all enthusiasts?
Exactly, and it does. You do sort of absorb it, I think, as a child. I mean, I certainly did growing up in Santa Barbara with great architecture around me and beautiful homes and things. But my daughter was pretty funny. She, in 6th grade, came home from the first day of school, and I was like, "How was it?" And that was the year that they expanded their class. So there was a new girl in the class. And she goes, "It was fine," you know. And then about 10 minutes later, "Do you realize how weird it is, Mummy, that I know what a sconce is?" And I am.
And you're like, that's not weird at all, darling.
Of course it's not
And
weird.
in France, we call them appliques.
Exactly. And I said, "No, that's not weird." And then no more conversation. And then 5 minutes later, I'm thinking, I got to know how this came up. So I said, "So how did the word sconce come up today in school?" "Well, there's a new girl in the class, and her mom is a decorator too." And I realized what they were doing were one-upping each other.
Oh my God.
And she knew what the sconce was, and the other girl didn't. So I was like, yes, yes, good job. And, but there are things like that that I think you get at a young age. So if you're in Boulder, Colorado, and you need a really good veterinarian, call my daughter, and she's got good taste, and she can, she can draw, she can photograph, and, so there we are.
You're lucky.
Well,
It doesn't always turn out that way. I don't think. But what about your broader family, your mother,
oh, okay.
what got you to go to London? What got you to go to London to do this to begin with?
Okay, well, London, I followed a romance. I mean, I was 23 years old.
Oh, well, that was
so
smart.
You just say yes. And so I followed a romance, and I had my degree in design, and I'd actually started off from UCLA with I. Magnans. I was their youngest executive, and I was head of the Yves Saint Laurent department and
That's amazing.
boutique, and I had a killer wardrobe. I mean, really, and of course I had to have my father bail me out twice, my credit cards, but I had a really great wardrobe. So I went to London, and I ended up working for one of John Fowler's last assistants, a fellow named Peter Hood, who's since passed on. And I got immersed in all that wonderful, yummy, English country house, National Trust properties, all those great chintzes and those icky colors, and just, so delicious. And then the romance fell apart, and I came back to California and came to San Francisco, and everyone said, "Oh, you should go work for Michael Taylor." And everything I had seen of Michael's was what you saw in magazines, which was a lot of the California, trees, white, rocks, ball pillows, and I was like, oh, I've come from England,
Yeah.
And I did end up going to work for him, which was a complete coincidence of sort of serendipitous experiences. And what Michael's real genius was not what got published in magazines. It was what didn't get published. And it was his mix and use of antiques and beautiful, sumptuous upholstery and color combinations and his use of bringing that indoors, from California, but those indoors, the trees, the orchids, the plants. And it was life-changing. And I still carry that forward. And I'll still stand there. You probably do too. When you stand and kind of think, hey, I wonder what my dad would do here. I stand there and I think
that every
wonder
day
what
when
Daddy
I
would do.
put on the same pair of black pants.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
No, a girl's got to have a uniform.
I love that. Alexa, was that you lost your dad. I know you were very close to him. And the sadness, of all of it. How has that shaped your leadership in your firm? How old were you when you took over?
27.
Yeah.
I have a 27-year-old. Not a chance. He can't even buy his own shoes. I'm not kidding. That was.
Well, you do what you do when you have to do it.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't remember that first year, and I think we were just running scared. Like, oh, am I? Oh, I have a really good story to tell you. I was very worried about ruining my father's good name, and I got a call from Albert Hadley, like a year after my father died, maybe 2, and he approached me about combining firms. And, Albert Hadley, and other people learn about physicians or politicians. In our house, it's like, you know, Albert Hadley and Francis Elkins and David Adler, like these are household gods as well as friends. And I was like, I can't I wanted to so badly because I wasn't finished absorbing, but I was like, I can't be responsible for these two great names. Like, I just can't. I can't handle it.
So you
What if-
actually considered that?
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you?
Of course.
I mean, I considered it, but I was like, I will be dragged through the streets
Yeah.
with a cart, like, and set on fire by the decorating community if I do this wrong.
Wow.
So I have to not do it.
Yeah.
How did he handle that?
I mean, he's Albert Hadley. He was fine. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think somebody was talking to him about strategy. I don't think it was, he felt it was a pressing need.
Yeah.
So there was no,
You had enough weight on your shoulders at that
Yeah, I
point
was
to
like,
take on
please.
something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
But it's a great community. And though we know all of these designers like Michael Taylor, like Albert Hadley, for what we think we know about them, it is the homeowner that's the muse. And the best work that you do is not identifiable as your work unless it's your home. You really then, and this goes back to legacy and things that you bring, the owner brings along the way, the house must reflect the owner.
Absolutely. And Michael always said, you're as good as your client. And at first I kind of didn't quite know what he meant.
That's a
but
scary thought,
Yeah,
actually.
that's interesting.
But it
And
was
true.
it is true. It is true. You're as good as your client. Does your client trust? That's first and foremost. It's not about budget. It's not about how much money you have or don't have. It's not how big a house is or how small a house is. But can they trust? Do they trust that process? And also, are they willing to have us, pull out of them kind of, what are their inner dreams? Most clients don't even know. And our job is to make those dreams that they haven't dreamed yet come true.
And we've had those conversations in our families and in our workplace. And it's an opportunity to have our clients have those conversations for the first time. So saying, how do you want to live?
Yeah.
What would be your dream? Even if they, you want to be practical, but you want to leave room for magic.
Yeah.
So, I have a dining room that's quite formal and I love it, but, I am always in a pair of black pants or yoga pants. I mean, I don't match my dining room at all. I should be ejected. But it gives me great joy, and I am absolutely okay with that.
Now, you see, that is successful decorating. I think no matter how formal or casual the room, you should feel comfortable in that room in whatever you're wearing. You don't need a ball gown to walk into a beautiful drawing room in an English country house. You can be comfortable in jeans, kick off your shoes, curl your feet up. If that's your comfort level, that's great. But if
and
it's
what
not,
makes you-
don't do
What
that.
makes you feel happy in your rooms?
Yes.
What do you need to have?
Yeah.
Do you need to have a place to put your feet? And there is some hardcore practicality to it.
Good lighting.
But
Good lighting.
Good lighting.
I like my husband to wear a hood. I just
Okay, that's
and I put on
another
a diving
conversation.
bell, and I'm like,
Why?
don't I look amazing? Because I look really great when his eyes are covered.
That's why God invented fading eyesight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. All right. I mean, was there any point? Okay, I'm just going back because these two get going, and then I've got to backtrack a little bit. Was there any point when you felt like you were actually departing from the legacy? And I'll start with you, Suzanne. Like, from really departing from Michael's work and creating your own moment.
Okay, what's on the screen right now? What's on the screen right now is a cottage in Napa that I recently totally revamped and revised. It is a very English layered cottage. It is pattern on pattern on pattern. Michael Taylor would not have done this. But what is always in me from Michael is scale and proportion. Because you can have any color, it doesn't matter. You can have any style, Louis, Hui, or Fooey. If the scale and proportion.
What was that?
Louis, Hui, or Fooey.
Louis, Hui, or Fooey. Yes. I love it.
But if your scale is off, if your proportions are off, the whole design goes wrong. And every one of us have walked into a room at some point and kind of go, I don't know, it's okay. You don't know what it is. I can guarantee you, it's not about whether you like purple or pink. It's about the scale being off. So this is an English, sort of very English cottage. It's a lot of, again, that pattern, that texture, that layer on top of each other, stenciled floors, floral wallpaper. This is a client who's not afraid of that. And a lot are.
A lot are, I would think.
A lot are. And so, that's the kind of thing that I think you carry forward. And I know that Michael wouldn't do this, but I know that Michael will get the scale right. That's the important thing. Remember that.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Alexa, I remember a show house you did, so I moved to New York in 2010, and I remember a show house that you did not long after that, and I felt like it felt sort of bohemian, and I felt like it still had that feel, but...
Was it Moroccan?
Maybe.
Was it in the Villard House? The really huge rooms?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
And I felt like that was sort of your departure, even though you had already been in business for a long time. But I felt like this is Alexa, not
Perhaps. I don't know where we separate, and believe me, if I could just produce Mark Hampton interiors, I would. I mean, when people say, "Do you design just like him?" I'm like, "Oh well, that's the aspiration." But I'm a different person of a different era.
Yeah.
I have technology. I think for both of us, it's a great thing that we're women. That it would be harder for me to be the son of, the comparisons would be too identical. Nobody expects the daughter to be exactly like the father or the son to be just like the mother. So that was helpful.
Well, that sort of leads me into the next question is like, where did all your confidence, both of you, but where did all your confidence come from?
America.
I mean, these are this whole crew is very confident, but I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, stepping
not
into somebody
shy.
else's shoes would be, you could easily become very insecure about it, and you didn't.
Not publicly, for sure.
Yeah. Did you have your moments?
I mean, I have my moment, like in 20 minutes, I'll have a moment.
Yeah.
Sure. But
I've had moments.
But what Suzanne was saying about when you recognize good design, and certainly if you live here and you have access to Monticello and you're seeing the beautiful houses that you guys are surrounded by, you're so lucky, your eyes are trained. We might feel insecure, but we have been trained so that we can recognize when it's wrong.
Yeah. Is that the
Yeah.
same for you, Suzanne?
Yes, absolutely. You can pick out immediately like what is just off
Yeah.
or wrong.
And if you grew up in Paris, that must be your existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you just get certain things because you're surrounded by it and your eye has become accustomed to it. It is like speaking another language.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
If
totally.
you hear it enough, you pick it up.
Totally. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also color sense. I think the other thing is color sense. I mean, it can be that blessing and a curse in a way, but I can actually look at a person and realize, their hair color isn't right for their skin tone. I mean, I know, but present
Wow.
company,
Look out,
of course,
everybody.
excluded.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it's like,
I mean, I think you guys we all are surrounded by an incredible group of strong people, women, who I think also help us feel more confident too.
So I could not get a job in San Francisco as a 25-year-old woman in design with my degree, having experience. I could not get a job there in 1980, 81, because I wasn't a gay guy. It was a very interesting experience. And it didn't mean I was any less qualified. It was just a whole different era and a whole different time. And it was sort of the height of the decorator who'd come in and say, you got to get rid of everything, and very intimidating.
That sounds great.
I know. Exactly. I know. I had the balls to do it, excuse me, but really, it was a very interesting time. And, Michael would wear these Versace leather jackets where the shoulder pads were out here.
Oh my gosh.
And he was a very tall, very handsome, very intimidating man. I remember one time he was like, come on, get your notepad. I was scrambling behind him with the notepad and the tape measure and the bags. And he either had the Porsche to get in, which was like taking your life in your hands, or he had the Rolls Royce that you got in and kind of lumbered down the streets, of San Francisco. And we're going along, and all of a sudden he sees a client coming out of her house, Dee Dee Wilsey, for those of you who know her. And he blares the horn. And she's like startled in her Adolfo suit and looks across the street and she's like, oh, And she comes across the street and she's like, wow, nice car, Michael. And he goes, well, it better be, you paid for it. I mean, those are the kind of things you can get away with back then, right?
my gosh.
And now it's sort of, it's different. I think, thank God, the world is a bit different from that. But what was the question anyway? I don't know. I mean,
I have no idea.
Confidence.
confidence.
Well, he certainly had it.
Oh,
too.
yeah, yes, but he was, okay, there was another moment, quick story. We were doing a huge installation, and it was a much more sort of contemporary house with fantastic art and multi-million dollar art collection there. And we were in the Porsche that day, pull up to the house, and I start gathering my things, and I realized Michael's not moving, and he's sort of sitting there holding onto the steering wheel. I looked at him, and I was like, you okay? And he goes, do you think it's going to look all right? And here he was, the height of his career. He was 56 years. Do you think it's going to look okay? And that, to me, was just, it spoke volumes, a moment that everyone, no matter who you are, you have your moments where you have a bit of self-doubt, your confidence will be shaken a bit, and that moment of like, yes, of course it's going to look okay, because that's what we do. We create that magic. We do.
And the dialogue is so important.
Yes.
So he could turn to you and ask that.
That's
the way,
trust.
But it's when you have a colleague or you have a homeowner, that chewing through it together is so valuable.
Yes. So when a client asks you, what's it going to look like, Alexa, what do you say?
It depends if I know.
Okay. You
I
have
mean,
to
where are
expand on
we
that.
in the project? If this is the first day, I
See,
don't know.
that question to me,
I mean, I know it's going to look great, but what are we doing?
I will say, then when they ask me, what's it going to look like, whether I know or not, I'll say, beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, I mean,
There.
it's
they're
going to
gonna
look
go,
really
"Oh, okay.
half-assed. And
You're really half-assed.
kind of sad,
And
little
then they're like,
trees.
well, I don't want something ugly. And I'm like, we don't do ugly. I mean, hello? We don't do ugly.
Actually, Lisa Fine and I were talking this morning at Charlotte's breakfast table about how fun it is to see, that's my living room.
I was going to say that's
To
children
see
were in
pretty
there.
rooms.
Yes.
By the way, I have like an incontinent dog that has, I have to rethink this. That straw really invites
Yes.
poop.
They all
That's
rugs
the
getting
big
me down.
Abaca
It's getting me
rug,
down.
isn't it? That one, the big one.
It's Irish matting.
Yeah. Oh, it's the apple mat. Right.
Actually, this is a good example of what I so enjoy about being an American designer, is that because here you are in such a fabulous design moment for America, but certainly in New York, it's everything, all kinds of styles are represented. So you don't have one that's particularly your own. So I feel like a tourist in the world of design, and I love having these big photographs of other interiors in my interiors. So for some reason, I love the Vatican. And though I was born Quaker and am now Greek Orthodox, I am drawn to the pomp and circumstance of the Vatican. And I love the fantasy.
And who's the woman who shot that again?
Oh, no, that's by Massimo Lisi.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. But there was another woman you
Yes, there is
work with.
another one. Her name is Celia Rogue.
That's right. She's great, too.
Of the interior photographies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So back to your other question about what do you worry about, like would they like what you're doing? My father hated purple. And though we would do lavender rooms, and I'm fairly certain I created this hate because I went through an entrenched period of time when I was 13 where you could not put anything else on me. I was wearing purple Gloria Vanderbilt jeans, a purple felt fedora.
Love
it. God. A purple rugby shirt. I see pictures and I'm like, aren't you a famous tastemaker? How did you let me out of the house? But so I find myself going back over and over again to variants of purple. And my bedroom right now is just awash in purple.
It's wonderful.
And I have decided after his grave spin, he would think it was fabulous because there's a lot of David Hicks DNA to it. And David Hicks was my father's first job.
Yeah.
He was at the London School of Economics his junior year and got a job as David's assistant.
Wow.
So those colors come from my seeing those rooms.
That's a big legacy, too, right there.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. Okay, so I'm going to move on a little bit. And somebody, you're going to give me a wrap up, right? Okay, I'm watching you. Right. In today's Instagram-driven world, this is a very big shift. How do you encourage designers to look deeper, amplify their learning, and train their eye beyond trends?
Harsh criticism, withering gestures. Insults hurled at them. No, I mean, if you really are interested in design, if you're pursuing it as a career, that's what you're interested in. That's what you're doing. That's what you're looking at. If you are only going on a beach vacation, and I love a beach, pina coladas, 100%.
Same.
But if you're not going to those places and looking like, what are you doing in this profession?
Yeah.
I see a lot of really well done, just very well executed interiors, but they're not as deep and as rich as what you two are capable of doing. That's a big leap, in my opinion. How does somebody get there?
But their successful rooms don't need to be this. It's great fun when they are, but you can have a wonderful modern room that's got CB2 things in it, and you're tight on a budget, and you can have a great room. I mean, they don't all have to be a lot.
Right. Louis Hui or Fui.
That's Cecilia. Yeah, exactly. That's Cecilia Roget photograph.
Yeah, she's great, guys, too.
My fake doors that close and they're book spines. And who doesn't love like a Harry Potter?
This is also in your apartment.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I see. Like, what's with the helmets, people?
And this is great because this affords you that flow, that beautiful circulation that you have. Yeah, it's great.
Suzanne, for you, about Instagram. I mean,
I love Instagram.
I love Instagram because, again, it's that quick visual, and we're all voyeurs, let's face it. We all love to sort of, look and snoop, and, do you want to come into the house? Of course I do. And so it's a guilty pleasure. It's also, I think, for a young designer, it's a fabulous way to put yourself out there. But I think the big difference in today's education, let's say, which is why I feel so proud to be supporting any kind of scholarship in design, is that the education is so important. And people will say to me, you travel
That's
so
my next
much
question.
and you're always working. And I'm like, no, I'm always learning. And my motto is cultivate curiosity, because you have to it isn't just about the pretty picture. It is about looking at, like, what makes it work? And where is that balance in the room or on that wall? And how beautifully balanced this room is with, not everything is the same and not everything is matchy, and there's a little bit of that tension in it. So I think the important thing is certainly to develop your eye, and again, be a little fearless, because fearlessness is good. Stretch yourself, and if you think, oh my God, I hate purple, throw in a purple pillow, see what it does to that room. And you might find that it gives it excitement and it gives it depth. And I think that's such people think it's brave. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say, buy the $50,000 chair and throw it in there. But
I would.
But I know. Well, we have a problem.
If you don't like purple, fine, but you must like this chair.
You must like this chair.
But that's my question. It's about, how important is ongoing education and culture, art, and travel. I mean, we're getting ready to talk about travel. But for sustaining a designer's vision, you have to keep going.
Instagram is so great because it's at hand, and it used to be a real closed, it used to be a point of snobbery about what you knew about, what houses you'd seen, because you either had to go see them or you had to have these books that were out of print. Like the David Adler monograph hadn't been redone. You had to have that book. You had to have the Janssen book.
Yes.
And you could only really have access to them if you were at a design firm with a great library. So the great thing about Instagram is all of those photos are in circulation now. So it's fantastic.
It's kind of amazing the things you can find.
Yeah, so and that's a much more democratic way of getting it. I mean, who has the time and money to get up and educate themselves and go, unless you have maniacal parents who want to trot you through every church in Italy, as I had, it's implausible. So Instagram is a great way to scratch the surface, figure out what you want to study about, and then you can deep dive.
And then
further.
immerse yourself.
But what about in terms of culture? I mean, are there things that, even with your teams, how many people work for you? A lot.
30, 28,
30,
I don't know.
28.
Just fired somebody. I don't count.
But is there, because I know sometimes these days, young people will come work at these firms and they maybe haven't had the culture. I mean, it's hard to grow up here and not have culture, and because you're surrounded by history. But in New York, you might end up with a kid, or San Francisco with a young person who comes to work for you, and maybe they didn't grow up in going to museums or traveling. I mean, what do you recommend that they do? I mean, do you get in that? Do you get involved in that, or you're like?
Oh, I do, absolutely.
I would think so.
I mean, both Alexa and I are on the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art board, national board.
They do a lot of classes.
And yes, they do a lot of classes. And I founded the chapter 20 years ago in Northern California. And it's all about, you got to push people to take the course, take the class, go to this lecture. Come here, look at this. It's a sellout crowd, because on whatever level it is, you all are interested in design, and you're learning things here today, and it's expanding your vision and your horizon and your experiences, and that's invaluable. It's really invaluable to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
That can't be the end of your answer, Alexa. I know you too well.
I know. Well, we're big proponents.
I like, my father's book is titled, his first book was titled Mark Hampton on Decorating. So I like to refer to the fact that my father wrote the book on decorating. So if somebody comes to me and wants some information, they're small little books. And there's that book, and then there's Legendary Decorators of the 20th Century, which of his two books, I really love that book.
Yeah.
And I still refer back to both of those books.
Yeah, and they're really
I'll pull them off the
Wait,
shelf.
say those again so everybody knows.
Okay.
So one is called Mark Hampton on Decorating, and Peggy Russell and I reissued it recently. She wrote the foreword, rather.
Oh, I love that.
And I wrote the afterword. Of course, I'd love to, one day I'll get around to add a chapter on him for it. But so that book is really wonderful and very informative, and he's a great writer. He's a very pedantic person by nature, so he's a born teacher, so he's a great design author. And then the other one is called Legendary Decorators of the 20th Century. And if you are a design enthusiast and you want to know those things that those images we all pore over, and want to know, like, oh, that's a Siri Mom. That was Siri Mom. Okay, you get that shorthand that then gets you to the next step. But you have to assemble. It's almost like having trading cards. You've got to know all of those people.
Yeah.
If you're a professional designer, but if you're an enthusiast, you want to know all those people.
Yeah, just because you love it.
Just because it's fun.
Yeah.
Well, and Suzanne, you told me a story about going through a gallery in Paris. Will you tell the story with your husband?
I know this story too.
Yeah.
I love it.
That was the former husband.
Former
This is your
husband. I was
starter
going to
husband.
say that, but I thought
Your starter husband.
it was the starter husband. I love that.
So, okay, this is a
had
long
one of
time ago,
those.
long time ago.
I like to call my husband to his face my current husband.
I do too. I say that, my current husband. I know, exactly.
Have you met my current
I know,
husband?
I
God
know.
bless.
And I also tell my current husband, well, your next wife is going to be
Yes.
so, he goes, there is not going to be a next wife. I can't handle it. Okay. But, all right, so this is 1,000 years ago. We're in Paris and on the right bank. And we went into Kugel. So for those of you who know Kugel, they are like the tippity-toppity tip-top of beautiful French furniture, period pieces, all signed, everything fabulous, beautiful. And we go in, and I'm looking at this beautiful suite of Louis XVI furniture. And the price tag, so this is like mid-'80s, and the price tag was, I think, $1,200,000.
In the mid-'80s.
The mid-'80s.
I mean,
for this suite of, it's beautiful, 2 canapes and 6 chairs. And my husband got really cranky. And I was talking to, of course, the person that was helping us at the time. And he said, why are we here? Why are we looking at this? And I said, because...
He's like, don't look.
No, exactly. and all he's doing is looking at a price tag. And it wasn't about the price tag, of course, for me. I wanted to know, I wanted to learn. And I wanted to know, okay, why is this price? That is such a good question to ask a dealer. because that educated me so much. Meanwhile, my husband is just flipping out about that his wife might want to buy a million. Of course, we're not going to buy it. I was 28 years old, and but it spoke volumes to the sort of, do you have an inquiring mind?
And connoisseurship.
And connoisseurship and learning, just in terms of, yeah, it was crazy price. But I learned so much understanding that, and looking at the underside of the chair and the stamps so yeah, that was a moment where I realized we really weren't compatible.
When you go on a trip, like a big vacation with somebody, and you leave with the ick, like you left and you're like, I think we're done. That was the end of them.
Yeah.
So parting, I don't want to keep. How are we doing on time? Oh, we are? Okay, good. So practical wisdom for designers and clients. So look, not everybody we know, everybody in the world doesn't have a decorator. That's not
true.
We want them to. We want them to.
Well, actually, there are 186,000 decorators in our country. So, there's one for everyone, pretty much. So, but can you give us some advice, like mistakes that are costly, things to watch out for? I know too much. I'm not a decorator, but I know enough to know that I know nothing, and I'm terrified to decorate anything. Like, I can't even buy a pillow without thinking it's going to be the wrong thing. So give us some advice. Costly mistakes. What's a costly mistake?
I don't know what you mean.
Never made one.
Come on, out with it, Alexa. How do you minimize them?
I'm going to massage my answer to serve myself, to say what I feel like saying. That has nothing to do with your answer. No. I will give you two pieces of advice. One is professional, for any professional, and one is decorating. For the decorating, I think if you have a house or apartment, whatever, before you begin, obviously you begin with your furniture plan, and try to figure out how the colors transit across the entire space, from bedroom to living room to kitchen. And try to get a theory of operation going that is very helpful to you. It'll get your arms around it, and it will hopefully help you keep from having the Disney cruise of this is the red room, and this, it gives you a theory. The professional tip I have is to excise the word unfortunately from your vocabulary.
Charlotte's dying laughing.
This is somebody's like, what's the best advice you ever got? I'm like, I didn't get this advice, I gave it. I had a colleague who I could hear her a room away talking to a client saying, oh, unfortunately, the CFA is coming tomorrow, it didn't come today. Oh, yeah. And then I heard her on another call being like, oh, unfortunately, And I just got so angry that I boom, boom, boomed into her, like Jurassic Parked my way into her office. And I was like, why are you telling the person on the other end of the phone how to feel and telling them to feel bad about it? Say, great news, while the CFA didn't come in today, it's coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Great news. The Nepalese family weaving your carpet was killed in a landslide, but the next town over really needs the work, and obviously that's terrible. Oh but my kids know. No, I know. But I always know I'm about to get tragic.
Somebody
terrible.
signal me when she's inappropriate, so I can. Because I'm so used to it that I won't say anything. Yeah. So.
But and I say this to my kids, manage me. I am available to be managed. Yep. Don't come in and say, unfortunately, I got an A-, because I'll lose my temper. Come in and say, great news, I got an A-.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, that is great news. It's like, these are not the droids you're looking for.
I think if we wake up and say great news every day, all day long, we're going to be happier.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in no professional setting is it acceptable to say, unfortunately. You don't need that qualifier.
That's dread, in my opinion.
Why would you say that?
Yeah.
Suzanne, how do you follow this?
Okay, easily, actually, because it's so funny that you have a word that you don't want people to use. I have a word that I don't want anyone to use in my office. And it sprung from that very kind of situation where I'm in a client meeting and my assistant was saying, well, maybe you could do this and maybe we could do that and maybe. And all I kept hearing was maybe, which basically is a lack of confidence.
Maybe is my least favorite word.
You're not coming forward and saying, this would be great, or this could be really fabulous. None of this, well, maybe this or maybe that, this mamby-pamby maybe thing. No, own it.
Own it.
Own it.
Even if it's, I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. I say that all the time. Someone says, so what's something about this? I'll say, I don't know, but I'll get you an answer. There, done.
It's so funny because Charlotte and I had this exact conversation. I feel like I'm talking to Charlotte because she was telling me this exact thing last night.
Yeah. I know. Well, I had an English teacher who would not let us use the word in our essays, nice.
I had one that wouldn't let us use get.
Well, get's a bad one.
Yeah, she's like, there's a verb out there for you somewhere.
Yeah.
Anytime you
Other
use
than
get, there's
okay,
another one.
obtain the right verb. Yes. Yeah, but yeah, nice was like, and that, you're right. It's like nice. It's kind of like, that's nice, mamby-pamby.
Okay.
So that would be the professional sort of, have your confidence. Don't say the maybe.
And stay positive.
Okay? And stay very positive. Always present that positivity, even if you don't know.
For yourself.
Yes, exactly. And then I would say, similarly to what you said about for the, let's say, average person who's not working with a designer, but you need to find that sort of confidence for yourself, and how do you approach a house or a room? It's the common thread. So what's your common thread? Because you don't want your house to look like a showcase where this room is pink and this room is yellow, and then you go into the, den of horrors. And,
Okay, so I have a question. This is just really my own question. Like, I get it. Like I went to somebody's project one time. I'll never forget this. And this guy was a decorator, and he said the top floor is an Italianate floor. The second floor is more French-inspired. And I was like, oh, this is a disaster just by listening.
Yeah.
But
Disney by way of Atlantic City.
how connected do rooms need to be with some sort of thread of color? Maybe nobody cares about this, but I do. Like,
If you're going, one room is this color. I mean, my apartment is very colorful. So for me, the hallway that is at its center functions as the fulcrum. So from it, other things spin out. Otherwise, I would say, if you're gonna have a lot of different colors, figure out that neutral that's gonna be the connective tissue in between them, and have that neutral pop up.
Yeah.
But you just need a theory of operation that you're comfortable with,
Yeah.
that makes sense to you, the homeowner.
yeah.
Also, I think when you all have the enfilade of rooms that you see through, you don't want that sort of far vision to be jarring. You want it something to draw you down through that.
But you go to a
beautiful-
museum, you go to the National Gallery, and it will be like an eggplant room and then a teal room in the enfilade. I mean, those are great places
I
to
love
go to test drive. What did they do? Let's look.
Right.
I think
Where's my old
that's
masters?
paying attention, I think, is a good one. Just any thoughts on just minimizing mistakes? Sorry not to beat the horse dead, but just how do you minimize mistakes?
If you find yourself in a hole, stop digging.
There you go. That's a good one.
Like, don't try and
Don't throw good
fix
money
what
after
cannot be fixed.
Yeah.
Stop.
No, exactly.
immediately.
Stop. Again,
Own
it. Yep.
And fix it.
And move on. Right, because mistakes will happen. They do. Murphy's Law is always in place. So you
Always.
have to plan for it, Murphy's Law being in place. That's the first thing. And if something is going sideways, don't beat the dead horse. It literally, you need to just say,
That
it's
sideways
not
running
working.
dead horse.
Does anyone have
right.
Does anyone
Right.
have an example of that?
No, though I have a very funny story that has,
Well, I need
again,
something.
it's answering a different thing. It's just like dealing with chaos, that everybody has a story of chaos.
Yes.
But an example of that is my purple room was, I originally saved the room prior to it because we expanded our apartment. And I took that bedroom, which was all white and neutral, and made it our primary bedroom. And because the scale of the room had changed and there weren't bookcases in the room, it just felt very flat. So I had to start again. and did exactly the same thing, the same bed treatment, the same curtain treatment, everything, but in different fabrics and different color.
Yeah.
And it was a painful exercise.
Expensive.
Yeah, I mean, mistakes will happen. I mean, I think when we're working with our clients and we're spending their money, you are so much more conscientious about the fact that you need to get it right, and you really do. Because mistakes now are so much more expensive, it seems.
But you're always better for someone than you are for yourself.
Exactly. I recently, well, 2 years ago, I was working in a beautiful house, and I was doing a great sort of strié, sort of celadoni green wall covering, and I just was so immersed in it and fell in love with it. I'm like, I want this in my family room. And I did all the walls in this beautiful Faro and Ball green celadon strié, and it was completely wrong. It was completely wrong. My light was different, faces north, faces east. I have very different light. I should have known better. I do know better. And after 6 months of it, I was like, I'm changing it. It was just plain wrong, and I made a mistake. And oh well, move on. Ew. But my husband wasn't very pleased with that one.
Yeah.
But he agreed. It didn't work. It didn't work in the light in our room because we look out to water, and so we have a very cold blue light in that part of the house. And we all make mistakes.
When I make mistakes, I do not invite my husband into the financial aspect. I pay to correct it, and I give him limited information.
Yeah.
So my husband is under the impression that everything costs $8,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything. Yes. Yeah.
How much was that?
So that is the
$8,000.
other, right. And so that is the other general rule of designing and decorating, is that everyone is pretty much on a need-to-know basis. Do they need to know the problem here? Do they need to know about the Nepalese family?
Yeah.
Do they need to,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, it's a need-to-know
But you
basis.
work with your husband.
I do
So
work with
he
my husband.
is
And my husband works for
unfortunately not
me.
in that situation.
I know.
Not at the
Yes, I
office,
sleep
but at
with my
home.
accountant. Yes, yeah, I know. He knows he's never going to win. I mean, that's the thing. You know, he's really pretty good sport about that. So
He's a good sport.
he's a good sport.
So back to this one thing, and then I'm sure people have questions. We really encourage people to ask questions, so just going to get that out there. But in the beginning, you said something about we just don't get rid of if you get a new client, I use that word. If you've got a new client and they want to keep certain things. Or, people inherit things, you've inherited things.
Yeah.
How do you decide what to keep, what to let go of? How do you encourage them to let go of things that need to be let go?
Good.
Well, I start every project with a furniture plan, and we will, if at all possible, take that piece and try and slot it in if it fits. If somebody feels very, very strongly about it, then you must embrace it. You must find a way to work with it. Talk is about legacy. You have to be totally respectful of the legacy that isn't yours, that this is a meaningful talisman for your client. But if there is a problem using it, you have to explain it.
Yeah.
If people are reasonable.
Yeah.
If you say, I don't think this is going to work, let me explain to you why I don't think it's going to work in this context, that's what they have hired us to do. So you should, by all means, try to use it, but if there's a very real, tangible reason not to, you must communicate it clearly, and nobody's going to have a problem with it if there's a really good reason.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing, too, especially coming from the South, and my aunts left me all sorts of furniture. I mean, they left all of us furniture. They left us,
cool.
it
Lucky
was
you.
great. It was great for a long time, and that was something that I just had loved all these pieces growing up. I hit 50, and I was like, I want to start over. I want my own thing. And I got rid of everything. It was weird. And I love them. And I tried to give it to my kids, and nobody wanted it, and it was all good pieces, but
This is a
it was
terrible
time.
story.
I know.
This is like when I told my children when they were little, The Tale of the Magi, and I finished it, and my son looked at me and he's like, that's a terrible story. Why would you tell me that story?
I know. It was weird. But I mean, sometimes we just need to let things go. You know, I needed my own, I didn't know what my own taste was or my own vision of
Well,
anything
that's
because
a-
I was just dragging their
That's
stuff
a great
around.
reason to accelerate more slowly, so you can allow your personality and your tastes and your budget to grow before you go all in.
That's true.
The flip side of that is that people will say, well, I didn't inherit any furniture. I don't have a legacy. And I'm like, oh, everyone has some sort of legacy. So you dig down, you find out like what houses did they go to or whose house? And then sure enough, things come out of like,
Yeah, it could be movies.
Exactly, it could be
books.
movies. It could, well, I love this and whatever. And so I think pulling that out of people is part of what our job is. And I also will always say, create your own legacy. And maybe you didn't like all that furniture you inherited, but for God's sake, put one piece of furniture in the room that is older than you are.
Well, there's
Remember
plenty
that.
of that.
That's a great
Okay, remember that.
That's a good one.
So you
and I
gotta
know,
have
Alexi,
soul.
you have a client who I actually know, who I remember talking with before she started her project, and she said, I don't like art. And I was like,
Wow, that's a statement.
I don't even know where to go with that.
Yeah.
But so how do you deal with that sort of situation?
Well, that's obviously not true.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
You've got to get
yeah,
there,
yeah.
right?
And she loves materiality, and she loves paneling, and she loves ironwork. She just needed to be equipped with more vocabulary words to describe
Right.
what she loved. Like, of course, she loves art.
Yeah.
She just might not like oil paintings.
That one stopped me dead in my tracks. I
We're
just
getting
was like,
we're getting
oh, no.
the
Am
Am I getting it? Okay, great.
quiet
I was
down.
looking for it. I was looking for it. So, Seb, who's going to start with questions? Do we have a little time for questions?
Lisa has a question.
Okay.
What do you do when your client absolutely has the worst taste in the world?
Okay, so what do you do when your client has the worst taste in the world? Absolutely the worst taste.
How do you get them to sort of
Sometimes you quit.
Yeah, you don't pair up. You don't have that client. That's in the interview process. You figure out if you're sympathetic to each other.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, I have one client, she's fascinating, and I've done 4 houses for them. And she basically said, you know, I have terrible taste. And I said, no, Linda, I don't think that's possible, really. Because she dressed beautifully and all of that. And she goes, no, John has the taste, her husband. And she said, I really don't. I just have bad taste. I said, I don't think you have bad taste. She goes, well, let's put it this way. I don't think I have any taste.
Does she like what you do?
And she loves it.
So she has
But
taste.
she recognized the fact that she didn't know, and she wasn't going to put her imprint on the work. Her husband actually has amazing taste, and he had an eye for textiles and for color and furniture. It was great. And I'm doing now a whole nother house for them. But there was one time when I had a client who, and you know, we're talking 40 years now, but she was a whack job. And she...
In the beginning, you get those.
And she had just awful taste and wanted me to do things that I just couldn't put my name to it. And I finally just said, you know, I'm not the right person for you. But I actually can refer you to a
that's
couple
legitimate.
of people. And yeah, who actually liked her color palette and liked what she wanted. And it wasn't me. It was a
Or
wrong fit.
you can always respond with, what do I know? I'm just a world famous decorator.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I say to my
Fiddle-dee-dee.
husband.
Fiddle-dee-dee.
I'm like, where have I seen your work? Oh, yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're not a designer,
That's
are you?
right. Yeah.
This could go on forever. Who has a question? Anybody else? Oh, look, we've got another one.
how do you navigate couples?
Oh,
Oh.
repeat the question. How do you navigate couples who have opposite taste, right? Okay, I've had that happen quite a lot, and it is really intriguing what happens in meetings because one of them will get up to go and use the restroom, and the other, don't you dare let her put that in. I'm not going to. And you're sitting there going, huh, and she comes back in, right? And then he gets up, and, you know, half an hour later, use the restroom, and she says, I am not going to have that in my house, don't you? And they're like, okay. And he walks back in. So, you know, you've oftentimes wearing so many different hats, right? You're the decorator, you're the therapist, you're the marriage counselor, you're the doctor, you're the fireman, you're the Indian chief. I mean, it is truly, there's a psychology behind what we do. Absolutely. And marriage. And I had a woman, she'd been married to her husband for 40 years. And she told me, she said, you know, Suzanne, I think you actually know Bob better than I do. And I'm thinking, I don't think that's a really good thing to say to me, but I mean, for her.
That is weird.
It was weird. I know it was weird. But their house turned out great, so.
Do we have time for one more question? One more question.
One more question.
The best way to establish trust with a new client.
Is there a portfolio involved that they have seen? Yes. Your work speaks for itself. You are a known quantity. You can have them obviously call for references. And it's very important when you work with a client, you need to telegraph or say right out, I am not your adversary, I'm on your team. We work for them on their team. They don't need to convince us, they don't need to, it's not us against them. We are team, whoever their last name is.
Yeah.
And your job is for them, advocating for them. That's an important message to receive. They don't need to convince you, like, can I please have red, or can I keep this piece of furniture? Like, absolutely. And figure out how to do it.
Guys, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Thank you. Today, we are here to talk about, at this moment, we are here to talk about See, Interpret, and Create, where we'll explore travel shapes, design, imagination, how travel shapes design, imagination, and the creative process. This is going to be a different type of conversation. They're both going to each go through their own presentation, and then afterwards, I'll ask some questions. And I'll be involved in this whole thing.
But you can interrupt.
I'll interrupt. I'm interrupting, so just be prepared.
Okay.
Okay. Who's going first?
I'm going first.
Okay.
Okay.
You want me to, wait, you know what? Hold on. Sorry. I feel like everybody knows everybody here, right? So I'm just going to go back. Lisa Fine was born in Mississippi. She now divides her time between Dallas and New York. She introduced her first fabric collection in 2007. Her work is richly informed by her journeys through India, the Middle East, and beyond, drawing from Persian botanicals, the history of textiles, and vibrant traditions of places like Uzbekistan, Morocco, and Paris, where she once lived. She's going to talk to us about that here. Lisa's textiles reflect her love of pattern, color, and the stories that fabric can tell.
Well, this is one of my favorite interiors ever. And it is the 18th century bedroom of the botanist Carl Linnaeus. And one reason why I love it is because he had no interest in design whatsoever, could have cared less. But he said he was so passionate about botanicals and plants that he wanted to see them every morning, first thing when he woke up, and every night, last thing when he went to bed. And as our friends told us before, the best interiors are ones that reflect the person's personality that lives in them. So here, it's not only beautiful to him, 200 years later, we're still loving rooms filled with botanicals. And here you see Michael Smith's bedroom he designed with de Gournay wallpaper. So botanicals, whether it was 200 years ago or now, are always one of my favorite things. I happened to stumble across an old book in Paris on Persian botanicals, and I love the naivety of them. And I was sort of shocked to find out that the reason why they had every plant, herb, root in the world is because they were actually originally done for medicinal purposes. And during COVID, when I had nothing to do, I just started to work with San Patrignano in Italy through Zoom. And I made a wallpaper from them, and they hand-painted, and a Dallas designer called Kathy Kincaid did a Kip's Bay room with them.
Wait, will you give a little?
Would you explain San Patrignano?
Yeah.
San
I mean,
Patrignano, believe
because
it or
I'm
not-
going to talk about it.
Yeah, it started as a drug and alcohol rehab center in Italy, and it had like 5 clients, and it was some major industrialists. Renzo Mongiardino, the Italian designer, who you're going to hear a little more about with my slides, started working with them and training some of these recovering addicts on painting and things like that. Well, now they have, I think, 1,000 people, 300
3,000.
acres. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, they do everything. You go through their program, you live there for 2 or 3 years.
For free.
For free, and when you finish the program, You're either trained in making wallpaper, wood carving, cheese, training dogs. I mean, they do everything, and it's a whole community, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but I went there because I was going to a girlfriend's 60th birthday party weekend. I thought, oh, I'm going to visit. This was so much more fun than the birthday party. I couldn't believe it because I have all these, well, I know lots of people that have wayward children, and I'm like, just send them there. I've never met a more polite, kind group of people. And anyway, Charlotte went there too. So what did you agree, don't you?
Well, you know, it is really, it really does something to your, really gets you, because these people make a 2 to 3 year commitment to rehabilitate their life. And it was basically started by a female mayor of Milan who sort of spearheaded the project. And it is enormous facility now with like a like a $30 million operating budget.
Like what part?
It's
out
a
in the
huge
country.
operation.
But where is it? It's out in the countryside.
It's
like,
in Rimini, which is on the eastern coast.
Okay.
Yeah. It's worth the trip.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm going.
It was amazing. Okay, so
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, so as some of you know, I'm a textile designer. I have a textile line. In the first minute I arrived in India, I knew I wanted to have a textile line. And for those who haven't been to India, you can't even begin to describe the colors, the patterns, and you're just overwhelmed. And here's just a collection of just the color that I love so much. And this is another example of, apparently in India, I've been all over studying there, but this was in Bhuj on the Pakistani border. I don't recommend anyone going there because it's very uncomfortable, very unsafe getting there. But I didn't know at the time, because this was years ago, everything you can find in Bombay or Delhi. But it was a great journey and experience in my research. And this are examples of two of my favorite rooms. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Indian textiles, paisleys and flowers are ubiquitous and timeless. And to the left is a friend of mine's house in Tangier, and that's my fabric. And to the right is a Mongiardino room that he did for the Rothschilds. Probably my favorite motif is the Tree of Life, and to the right is a 15th century window in a mosque in Ahmedabad. And to the left is a friend of mine's 18th century Tree of Life in their house. I don't know if you know Helen's Story, the antique store here, but I bought a Tree of Life panel from her, and it's been sitting with my printer for about 3 years in England, because I just can't even begin to think how I can match the ones that have already been done, because they all had natural dyes, and they would have hand painting on them, and they were really beautiful.
But please do it, because nobody else
I know,
is.
and this one has monkeys on it, which is sort of unusual. So maybe eventually. But
Nuke the monkeys, would you please?
and
Nuke the
you know,
monkeys.
it was such a great thing. So, and this is what happened is in, I guess, 17th and 18th century, it became so popular that all these chintzes that we think of as being English and French actually all started in India. So chintz is from the Sanskrit word, chai, called scattered. But in the 18th century, they started making it illegal to import, and that's when they started popping up these plants all over, in mills all over France and England. And here is, I think it's a braconnier, it's Givenchy's bedroom outside of Paris, and that to me is one of my most favorite Tree of Lives. And most people have no idea it all started in India so long ago.
Yeah, but I just want to say something about Lisa. She's been to India over 50 times. Okay, so this is really coming from an incredibly informed position. I could listen to Lisa talk about India all
But
day.
I do think that's something I need to go back and say about this, is that you do an incredible amount of research. You're sort of nerdy about it. Like, you really get in.
She's a good nerd.
Well, I didn't mean it. I don't even think of the word nerd as ever being anything but good. But I feel like you really do your homework.
Well, I was a history major, and I just love pretty things. So there's nothing more interesting. When I went to India, I was sort of fascinated by everything that I love. Really started in Persia, and so I sort of followed that trail. And when I was talking about Bhuj earlier, it's, the Silk Road and everything. But anyway, the most important thing is what we think is English and French, Provençal prints and chintz really started in India in 17th century, which I found that fascinating. Well, this was my apartment on 3rd Avenue in New York, and it is probably the most architecturally undistinguished building you've ever seen. So I just said, I'm going to throw everything in. And I call this my United Nations of fabric, okay? Because the lampshades come from silk saris from India. The chair is an ikat velvet I bought in Istanbul, but it really was from Uzbekistan. Suzanne is from Uzbekistan. Cashmere prints, Zardozi embroidery from Lesage in southern India, you name it. But the really interesting thing, too, is the walls are a paper-backed chevron stripe that I actually found in the Textile Museum in Washington, D.C. But believe it or not, I think it was thousands of years ago, they were made in Ahmedabad in India and ended up in Egypt. So the Egyptians, even before, so long ago, I can't remember the date because I'm bad with numbers, but they have a whole collection in the Textile Museum of geometric cotton prints that were all made before anything in India, and they ended up in Egypt.
I'm going to interrupt because I think that this moment that even when we were talking before we were here, when you told me that story, it made me think about, not everybody's traveling all over the world all the time, and not everybody goes to India that many times. So the fact that you could even just make those discoveries in a museum in D.C. is very important.
Oh, we're going to get to how you don't have to leave your house now to travel. One other thing, I actually bought that mirror in we were talking about travel and work. Well, people ask me, is this business or pleasure? How do I distinguish?
There's nothing
because
different.
It's all the same for me. Yeah. It's just travel. But I found that mirror in a junk shop in Turkey, and I wanted to change my reservation and have it packed up properly. And they said, oh no, it was the earthquake. You will never get out of here. Well, it arrived in 1 million pieces. Had it put back together, and then I was in Damascus the next year, and I went into a ballroom, and every wall in the ballroom had long mirrors just like that. So also, when you travel and shop, just take it out of the shop in your mind, because you'll never know what you find. Okay, this is my first grown-up apartment, okay? And growing up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, every time my mother took me to a city, I would find myself in the fanciest French restaurant in that city, usually on a velvet banquette, okay? So I had to have velvet banquettes I was in Paris. But unfortunately, I not only spent my budget, I think I exceeded my budget, and nothing else in the apartment had been taken care of. So my idea of Braconnier Tree of Life fabrics all over my tinted room was not going to work, because I had just come back from India. And I'd just come back from India, totally set on a tinted block print room, and then someone told me about Simran, which is on Rue Jacob, and it's kind of like the Gap of India block prints.
We love it.
And I went and bought block print sheets for nothing, and that is my tinted room. So I was really excited, and I had lots of really fun dinners, so much so that people talked about it. And I'm having lunch with Lee Radswell, who lives in Paris, and she's like, oh, Lisa, I'd like to see your tinted room. And I'm like, oh, can't wait to show it. Well, guess what? She said, oh. I didn't understand at the time that she was the original haute bohemian. She set the style. I had never heard of Mongiardino at the time. I really didn't. Not at all.
That's amazing.
And so I love it. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Lee, because she is somebody who traveled the world, had houses everywhere, or at some point in her life she had houses in different places. And all of her interiors had a feeling of travel without feeling like the travel. And she has a lot of great qualities in pulling all these cultures together. And she certainly shamed me. That's all I have to say. So that was great. In New York, she no longer was working with Renzo Mongiardino, but she had sort of learned everything, having done so much with him. And this is her dining room in New York, which is fabulous, and you can see it's the play of patterns and paisleys and stripes, which are very much Lee and Mongiardino. The first time I walked in there, I'm like, oh, I love this. Well, you can't have it, the fabric's discontinued. Well, guess what? A friend of mine came to me, a designer, and she had a client that wanted a tinted room, and she really wanted the Lee feel. I'm like, I've got her tablecloth. So
No way.
This
This
tablecloth
tablecloth.
is
So you
now
have
in
it.
Italy being reproduced. So if anyone wants a tinted room or wants Lee's fabric, it's no longer discontinued as of well, I'll be selling it. Okay. Yeah. For those of you who love to shop and decorate and are obsessed like I am, well, I could never be a decorator because I make mistakes. But the one thing Lee has that I admired more than anything is her ability to edit. You know, we're all clear on I love pink, I love stripes, I love botanicals. She always had all of those elements. They always had an international, cosmopolitan, elegant feel, but there were never stacks and piles and junk like in my apartment. And that's why I show this. This was her last apartment in Paris on Avenue Montaigne. And anyway, but Lee always said, when you asked her what her style was, she would said, I like very traditional with a touch of the exotic. And I love the way she did that because it wasn't in your face, and that's not easy to do. And one of my favorite rooms of hers, which I never saw, because this was her bedroom in her country house outside of England, but it says a lot about traditional with a touch of exotic, because what's exotic about it is she mixed all those traditional classic things, but yet there's nothing boring or traditional classic about it, and I love that. So.
Mark Hampton did
He
that
did?
watercolor.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. Oh, I mean, Charlotte, we all knew that. I'm glad I didn't say it was Monjardino because I didn't know and guess. Okay, what's next? Okay, well, okay, Suzanne, who is involved in the Institute of Classical Architecture, where I love to try to go on a trip at least every year because I learn so much, and I try to get out of my comfort zone. And so many friends love Sweden, and I just really had no desire to go someplace so clean and organized. But I pushed myself to go, even though it wasn't my thing. And I loved it, because here I am, here's Drottningholm, that's the Chinese pavilion, and I love to talk about color in India, but these were the most beautiful colors ever. And that was Sweden, which is so, one of the things about travel is I find I have to try to force myself to go to places that don't interest me, because there's a reason why they interest most people, you know, and I found that with Sweden. And this pattern was done in China. And it was brought in the 18th century by the Swedish East India Company. So the same time the East India Company was making Tree of Life and chintz for England, the Chinese were making chinoiserie for Europe too. So it was very interesting, the correlation, because I love these patterns as much as anything in India. It's just so different. So that's what's wonderful about travel, is being able to see that, especially if you're a designer. And one of my absolute favorite rooms is what Henri Samuel did for Louise de Villemaurin. And what I love about, I like to say that, you know, after the war, when life standards changed and lifestyles changed, people got a little more relaxed, because normally you probably wouldn't have seen just cotton prints everywhere. And I love that. And don't quote me, but when I lived in Paris, I think other than a few decorators, most people did not have decorators. I feel like Europeans were very cheap and slow to get on the decorating bandwagon. So you would see, as we were talking, a mix of just things you wouldn't think would work together, but these are interiors that evolve over style, and they do show more the legacy of a family and the fact that it has that sort of cotton print. It's the personality of the person that lives there. Just, she was sort of famous for salons and art and culture, so it's one of my favorites. Now, brace yourself for the next. First, I'm going to say, when I was living in Paris, I went to stay with a friend before I actually had my own apartment. And I woke up one morning and I felt like I was waking up in a cloud. And I thought, oh, it's because I'm surrounded by flowers. Because the walls, the ceiling, the bed, everything was all one color. So I did that. And one of my first friends that came asked me if I had nightmares. And I said, I promise you, if you stayed here, you would think it was a solid. Well, I do sell fabric, so I absolutely recommend that everyone put fabric everywhere. So I did the same fabric everywhere. That's my bedroom in New York, and this is my guest room, which, as you say, It's not as busy as it looks, and this is much calmer.
No, we're from the more is more school.
Like I said, I sell textiles, so I'm going to be pushing it. Okay. Okay, so Charlotte and I don't know, for those of you who knew Charlotte during COVID, she had more activities and more competitions, and we were all trying to entertain ourselves. But I actually realized I kind of enjoyed my lockdown. I rewatched every old movie, went through my design books, and I became obsessed. You know, the Thin Man, marble and mirrors, and English country houses, the Crown. So I just thought, you know what? Let's move on. Let's move
But
back.
I remember,
You know.
I remember calling you
Yeah.
and saying, Lisa, send me your reading list.
Yes.
Okay, I think I'd get about half a dozen books.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I'll never forget, 33 books. And I think she'd gone through them in like maybe 4 months.
Well-
and I went, oh my God.
Because I had to go to Dallas and live with my mother, who's very spoiled and very demanding, I promised myself I would go to a certain place and no one would bother me, and I'd read a couple of hours every day because I just had to like get a routine, and I love to read. So that was it. And so anyway,
lot of books.
mirrors. And then I was lucky when I was watching all those wonderful Doris Day, Cary Grant, the Thin Man, looking at the Crown and the interiors and just forgetting about it. You know, then the news would come on. It would be so horrible. But the good thing is, everyone was leaving New York. And I said, I will never leave New York. I don't care how bad it is. I love New York. But everyone was leaving, so guess what? I went on Street Easy and I got the apartment of my dreams because no one wanted it. And it was in a 1927 building, so my red velvet banquettes and tent were replaced by wanting marble and mirrors, okay? And I became obsessed.
Wait, so is this your bathroom?
No, this
No,
is my
not yet.
entrance hall.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, I shouldn't say that word, but that is not my butler. But he made for a great photo shoot, and he does work in the building. So that was my, yes, and I could go on and on about stories, but it was quite the thing. And the wallpaper you can't see. Well, you'll see it in the next thing. I also became obsessed with bathrooms because I love a bathtub, and I'll talk about that. So honestly, I was looking for an old bathtub. Big one, big, like, you know, I was really inspired by the bathrooms at Claridge's in London. And finally, my architect said, Lisa, if you don't come with me to Waterworks, I can't work with you because it was just not practical. So we did do this bathroom, and you can't really tell, but that's wallpaper I did with San Patrignano. There was a reference to David Adler and Francis Elkins earlier. And I just looked at that book everywhere. I think I had one in Dallas, one in New York. I mean, it was my Bible. And they sort of did things like that, but this is kind of a combination of bronze and silver. And once again, San Patrignano was amazing. So in the process of trying to get my bathtub, I even called the architectural historian Mitch Owens. Can you please find me pictures of Claridge's bathtubs? Even though I knew they wouldn't fit in my apartment, I just had to, the nerd in me had to like at least find the image. Well, I never found a good picture, but I did find, he sent me a picture of the Duchess of Argyle's bathroom, which I love. And if we had more time,
That is so fabulous.
Talk about the Duchess of Argyle.
I could dive into a whole bathtub series because I love a big extravagant bathroom. And this, to me, just so glamorous. And if anyone's interested in her, there's a great book called The Grit and the Pearl. And there is a Netflix thing called A Very British Scandal. And she was half American. And it's quite a story.
And she had more than one person in that bathtub at some time.
Well, she was famous for something, which I just Googled the Duchess of Argyle scandal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Charlotte Moss, ladies.
Yeah.
And gentlemen.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Where do we go? This kind of distills so much of my travel. I mean, Lisa and I have traveled together with Suzanne. We've had great times together because we are all culture vultures. Mm-hmm. And I think it just sort of, I take pictures wherever I go. A camera goes with me wherever I go. A journal goes with me wherever I go. And this was standing at Corrance, one of my first visits there, seeing all of the water features at Corrance, which is many. So
What part of France is that in?
that's just, an hour
southwest of Paris.
So you could go to Paris and go out for the day.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's divine. But I just want to say something about travel as a preface to all this, because so much of what Lisa talked about and then what she's created and what I have been inspired by and I have sort of activated in my work and my design all came from travel. And I think about how much I wouldn't have had I not traveled, which is, it was interesting to sort of go back and review all the slides and understand what all came from the travel. So I'm a scrapbooker. I take pictures of everything. I put all my travel pictures in books and in big boxes. Paul Vogel, who has the Vogel Bindery in East Hampton, makes all these things for me.
Wow.
And he's amazing, and they're all oozing with photographs. But, you know, I just figured one day when I'm grayer than I am now and maybe have a bun and sitting in a rocking chair, I can sit back and look at all these pictures and do what Leslie Blanche said when she wrote her cookbook, Around the World in 80 Dishes. She said, if I can't return to the country, I can still cook the dish and recapture the rapture. And so this is my recapture the rapture moment in my maybe retired days. So when my husband and I travel, and sometimes when I'm, with someone else, I always make a tradition of the last night of our travel when we have dinner to discuss the next trip. Because there's nothing more depressing than going home after you've been on a great trip. So it's always to sort of look at the next thing. And I've always loved this quote by Gertrude Bell. Already, I want the next thing. And so that just gets you on a path to thinking about the future, which obviously is better than thinking about going back to work.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
My husband would hate that quote.
But what I want to say about travel, and we did this, we talked about COVID, and during COVID we did a number of challenges on Instagram, getting people to do collages and things like that, because COVID was all about armchair travel. It was all about the reading. And, where could we send ourselves on some foreign mission in our wing chair? And these are just some of my favorite books about travel. Patrick Leigh Fermor, one of the greatest travel writers, a Brit. Freya Stark, incredibly prolific. And Jane Digby, if you haven't read that, it's pretty fabulous. It's a scandalous life. It wasn't necessarily about all the travel, but she was a Brit who just didn't want to conform. And at a time when women couldn't work, couldn't do anything, she just took off, had multiple lovers, and ended up marrying a Bedouin and died in a tent in northern Africa.
And she was Pamela Harriman's
ancestor.
Yeah.
And I remember I read this book in Antigua, sat on the beach. My husband's out windsurfing, like banging into a yacht somewhere, and I was crying on the beach when the book ended, because you've had those books that are just so darn good, you didn't want them to end, and that was one of them. And then Gertrude Bell. So armchair travel can be equally inspiring, but sometimes there's just no substitute for being there and smelling the air. I've been to Russia twice. Once with the New York City Ballet on a big anniversary trip. And then I was invited by a corporation there to come and lecture in St. Petersburg and in Moscow. And I put this slide here because this really reinforces to me how important grabbing the moment is. If you have an opportunity, seize it, go do it, because you just never know when you're not going to be able to do it. And I think Russia, in my lifetime, I will probably not go to Russia again.
Right.
But I have those memories of Oranienbaum, Pavlovsk, the Rose Pavilion, all the Yusupov Palace we talked about last night, the incredible painted ceiling. I have such vivid memories of that, and I want to keep them nice and positive. So I, just seize the moment. That's all I can say.
What was
and
it-
I think that's what travel is all about, seizing the moment.
Sure. What was it like when you stepped off the plane and you were in Russia? I mean, I was saying, I grew up during the Cold War. I mean, you didn't even know what people look like there. So what was it like?
Well, Brunhilde nabbed me.
Who's Brunhilde?
Brunhilde was the Russian woman waiting for me because on my papers it said I was lecturing. And they didn't know what I was lecturing about. So they put me in a side room. I guess she thought I was, going to go in propaganda or something. And they put me in a side room. In the meantime, all the people that were meeting me as part of the group were watching my luggage go around the thing. And where is she? Where is she? And I'm in with Brunhilde, and she's like giving me the third degree about talking about decorating. Anyway, 30 minutes later, they let me go. But I have to tell you, I had a moment.
Like, yeah.
I had a moment. I'm a bloody decorator. I mean, come on, I'm talking curtains and furniture, There's nothing controversial about it. But this trip was really, that was a special trip because they took me special places. They were people that could have doors opened, and I'll never forget that trip. I love houses. I love house museums. Love seeing how other people lived. Whether, there's that much there in a house in terms of furnishings, it doesn't really matter. There's something about the air and the spirit in house museums that really, really gets me. Malmaison is one that I've been to many, many times. I've taken everybody I know when I go to Paris to Malmaison. I've written an article about Empress Josephine, and there's just a spirit in house museums, and they're great little learning moments, not only about how people lived, but all of the things that were prominent in that period, and the furniture and the style. So Bagatelle is an interesting story for those of you that don't know. It was a competition between Marie Antoinette and her brother-in-law, the Comte d'Artois. They had a bet that he couldn't build the Bagatelle in 90 days, and he did. So Marie Antoinette lost the bet. But the story here is opportunities and just moments. Because I was coming back from a garden festival in the south of France in Loire Valley. I was with my sister, and we were coming down the highway. We were just about to turn into Paris to go back to the hotel, and I said, hold on. The light is perfect. It's that time of night when everybody with an iPhone looks like Scavullo or some incredible famous photographer because the light is perfect. And I said, let's go to Bagatelle. So it was too early for the roses. We walked around, and we happened to find ourselves in the middle of the iris garden, which was at its peak of perfection. I've talked about this many times before because my grandmother grew bearded iris, and I'm starting to put some in I made a meager attempt so far here in Charlottesville, but in honor of my grandmother. But these were absolute peak. And my sister and I, we waited for the tourists to leave so we could take our pictures because I don't want tourists in my pictures. And we sort of had a seance with my grandmother there. I mean, it was a moment we both had. So every once in a while, you just have to go off the path, and you just never know what you're going to discover. And that was a perfect moment. So in this routing around in the English countryside and looking at houses, I'd never been to Rousham. We couldn't get into the house that day. It is a house I think it's been lived in by the same family for hundreds of years, and they're kind of eccentric. Anyway, we couldn't get into the house, but we could explore the garden. Charles Bridgman started the garden. William Kent finished it and really has credit for the garden. But the thing that struck me, and this is the thing about travel, I'd never seen a rill before. I didn't even know what a rill was until I saw the one at Rousham, and I could hear the water and watch it snake through the landscape. And that to me was a magical moment in a garden because I learned at that moment that it's not about flowers, it's not about trees. It can be about that hardscape and about the water. And whether it's from a natural source or not, and this was, gardens can be anything you want them to be. And that's what I love, more so than decorating. Maybe that's why I like talking about gardens more, because there are just so many possibilities. So these are other rills that I discovered and other water features that I loved. One in the very bottom is another water feature at Corrence. On the right again is Rauscham. Up above is Nympha, a couple hours from Rome. And what I love about this is the water is from a natural spring, and it literally just comes out from under the ground and goes into the lake. And for those of you that have been to Nympha or not, it is a wonderful garden because it is a ruin of a town that was sort of pillaged and taken apart as a result of a conflict. And everything just grows on top of the ruins. It's very romantic. I think one of the most romantic gardens in Europe. And then on the left is the Italianate, a garden done by Harold Pito at Bossard Park, another rill. So fast forward, and this is all coming to roost now, and it's actually a lot of it's coming to roost. The travel things that I want to talk about are coming from are going to show up in Charlottesville, because you just can't help yourself. I mean, you just can't help yourself. They're there. It's like simmering, all of these things you've seen and all the things that are influencing you. And so in Charlottesville, I knew that I wouldn't be here a lot in the summer. I didn't want the responsibility of a garden. I have a big one in East Hampton, and that's a lot of work. And I wanted more hardscape. And then I went, I'm going to get my rill. So anyway, 2 landscape architects later, an incredible stonemason, and the guys that sorted out the water and the hydraulics, I now have my rill here in Farmington.
The stonework on this terrace is off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, these guys were really amazing. But what I wanted was that moment when you come home from work and you sit on your terrace and you hear the water, and I can watch the sunset over the Blue Ridge Mountains. And there's no more groovier moment for me than maybe sitting up in my tower, which is my other indulgence. That's my special moment in Virginia. So I finally got my rill. Anyway. So from scrapbook of towers, places that I've been, Osborne House on the Isle of Wight, Sissinghurst Tower, the Little Taj, Chanteloup. I think John, where is he? We climbed to the top of the pagoda at Chanteloup years ago, and I've always been sort of mesmerized by them because in so many ways they were also architectural indulgences. And what are you going to do there? I mean, they're this big. You know, there's not much you can do. You can't really furnish them, but you can be in them, and they can give you a different vantage point. So we put a tower on the house in Charlottesville, and Stan Dixon was my architect, and he understood the things that I wanted. And he drew the first shot of drawing the tower, and I said, that's it. The detail on the inside is wonderful, but that is where we go with no devices, no phones, no iPads, no laptops, no nothing. And it's 2 chairs up there, watch the sunset, read a book, hang out with my dogs. And again, those are, I will never move out of this house now because I'm sort of married to those indulgences, financially and otherwise. So we need a long time in this house to amortize, so to speak. So I love garden festivals in Europe. They're always so inspiring. I find it fascinating. First of all, we can't buy anything at any garden festival. Can't bring it back unless you choose to smuggle something in your suitcase because you can't bring live material. But what you can do is go and be inspired by all the things that are there and listen to the growers all talk to each other with such enthusiasm, animated enthusiasm, about their various plants that they grow, auriculas or this, that, and the other. So I went to Chateau de Chaumont in the Loire Valley. I've been to 3 garden festivals there. They're amazing. Every summer, they ask 15 landscape designers to design a garden based on a theme. So this was the first year that I went, and the theme was water. The next time I went with my sister, it was the 7 deadly sins. That was very interesting interpretations. And this was called Willows in the Mist. And I don't think I've ever given a lecture where I haven't talked about this, because there are these seminal moments in your creative life that, talking about legacy, that you just, it's a thread, and you just keep bringing it through in your work. This was called Willows in the Mist, and it was done by not 2 landscape designers, but 2 basket weavers. And they planted willow saplings, and then they wove them as they grew to create this maze. But where's the water? Those are willows, right? And all of a sudden, this mist comes over us. We didn't even know where it was coming from. And it was like really being a kid. It was a magical moment in the garden. And then I realized again, another time, that gardens can be interpreted so many different ways. So
That's like a work of art.
Yep, so fast forward, I found a woman in upstate New York who does willow pavilions. And called her up, and, you know, a little bit on the cantankerous side, and called her up and said, I'd love to do this. She did one for Carolina Irving and in East Hampton. And she says, okay, this is how it goes. Okay, you need this many saplings, and you need this many of this caliper and this many of this caliper, and they need to be kept wet before I get there. So we had a flatbed truck bring all the willow, put it on tarps in my driveway, keep them wet, tarp them again, and wait for her to, the principessa of pavilions, willow pavilions, to arrive and create some magic. So now this pavilion has 2 Raleigh Adams obelisks in front of it, and it's Wi-Fi'd. And my husband has a putting green down there, so I can go up there and hide from the house and do my work.
This is in East Hampton.
This is in East Hampton, yes. But that was 1991 when I saw that Willows in the Mist, and you know, then 20 years later.
You carried it along.
Carried
and
a long
waited.
time, yes. But I think the single garden, I mean, I've visited hundreds of gardens in Europe, hundreds, and photographed them. But this is the one that got me. I'd always wanted to go. I arrived. There are 8 rooms you could stay in this little hotel that they'd created there, pretty special. I literally dropped my bags, took my camera. 3 hours later, I've got 400 photographs. And this was started by a French architect who was rather impatient and decided that he didn't want to wait for the perfect project or client to come along. So he decided to be it. So he went out looking for a ruin that he could rehabilitate and create a garden that was in his mind's eye. And it's the Priory at Notre Dame d'Orsay. It is in Maisonneuve, sort of a little south of the Loire, but magic. And what they do there that's so brilliant is they weave the chestnut, they weave the willow. I mean, this is a garden that was, trust me, dirt. And this is 25 years on of his very hard work. So I went there, and I'm walking around, and he's out there, and he stops me, and he goes, well, can I cook you dinner? And I went, well, yeah, he's a gourmet cook. So he cooked dinner, and he said, do you want to see the before pictures? And he brings out all the scrapbooks of the entire process for the 20 years that they'd been there. And I was writing for the Wall Street Journal at the time. I called up Deborah Needleman, who was my editor, and I said, Deborah, I need to write an article about this man. He got me. And she says, well, go for it. And so we did an article on this garden. If you love espalier, this is a garden for you. So anybody that wants it, info at Charlotte Moss, I'll give you all the details. Mm-hmm. So fast forward.
I love this.
I said to Patrice Taravella, who started the garden. He's also done Babylon Storing in South Africa, if any of you have been there. And he did the garden at the Newt in Somerset, where I just revisited about 2 weeks ago. I called him up and I said, you know, I need to have Gilles, your master gardener in East Hampton. How can we make this happen? And he goes, well, Gilles wants to run the New York City Marathon. And I said, I'll call you back. So I made a phone call. She goes, Charlotte, it's past the deadline. I said, how big is the check we need to write? She got back to me.
I'll
We
call you
wrote the
back.
check. We got Gilles into the marathon, and we gave him 3 days of warm-up like he never thought he was going to have. He came. He charmed everyone. He was like this little, I don't know how to describe it. He just sort of didn't even hit the ground when he walked. And he created this gloriette for me out of woven willow that has miniature pear cordons on it. And this hedge here that you see, I don't know, is there another slide? Oh yeah, okay, I'll go back. So that was my hedge that you see when you come right out of my front door. And I said to Gilles, I want windows in my hedges, and I want some woven structures. So I hired a wood artist, Charlie Baker, to be there. It was Lisa Stamm, who was my garden designer from the very beginning in 1989 when we bought the house. And then who else do we have? We had one of my Polish gardeners and 2 Hispanic gardeners. And we call it the Tower of Babel lunches because everybody was speaking a different language. And Gilles and his wife, of course, speaking French. And we had big, long family tables, and everyone got along famously. And I had the best 3 days I think I've ever had. And he created these wonderful things for me. Created window in my hedge, which of course anybody here is going to look at and say, why didn't she center it over the pedestal? Well, because there was a tree right in a very unfortunate spot. But anyway, Gilles did all of that for us, and he ran the New York City
Is that hard to
Marathon.
do with that? When you cut a whole, I mean, I know
He
that
cut it
sounds
out,
like-
but there's a frame on the
A
inside,
frame.
and then you have to continue to grow it. I mean, these are Western cedars. You would never do this with Western cedar. I did it with hornbeam, much more malleable. So don't ask me why things strike you. We all have things that just sort of hit us for one reason or another. And this stone orb is from the garden gates at La Foce, which is Iris Arrigo's house in Tuscany, which is a magical place. And on the other side is one from another chateau in France. But I've always been struck by this shape. And then when we started to do things in the house here, I found a kindred spirit in Stan's office, Renee, one of the project architects. He loved platonic solids and all these things, and I won't get into that nerdy moment, but he wanted to draw the orbs for me. And so I wanted on my banister, the newel post, I wanted to be a dodecahedron, and then we did it also in the tower. And then the carvers did this masterful, railing coming down, and it was just a beautiful piece of carving. But that was all from seeing that darn stone thing, And why it struck me, I do not know. But there it is now in 2 places here up the street. So Suzanne Tucker and I were traveling in Northern Ireland with Stan Dixon, and we were doing mostly private houses in Northern Ireland. 2 people, we'd never traveled together, just as an aside. You know what a nightmare it can be traveling with people that you just have no clue what it's like to travel with. I want Chinese tonight. No, I want Italian. No, I can't go there. Everybody here was so easy to get along with and just rolled with it. I mean, we did laughed for a solid week in the backseat of that car. So we arrived at Hillsborough Castle. We walked in. This is the entry foyer on the left. We looked at each other. We looked at the walls. And then we went up to sort of fondle the walls because the stone was just gorgeous color. And the curator that met us said, oh, it's faux. And we were absolutely certain it was real stone. It was done so beautifully. So fast forward here in Charlottesville, I called James Allen Smith, who's a decorative painter I've worked with my entire career, 40 years. And I said, James, we're going to do Hillsborough in my foyer. And we did a similar stone in New York in our townhouse, but this is very different. He got the grain going horizontally, got it going vertically. He altered the color, and there he is, and there's my foyer. But that all came from Hillsborough. So all these things would not have happened had I not been someplace else. And that's what I love about travel. So, this is when you get into the TMI moment. I have these fixations, and one is about palmettes and anthemians. And I just came back from Greece, so I saw my share of anthemians. But these all came from my picture file. And then I go to San Patriano to have them help me execute my vision of the palmettes for my reading room here in Charlottesville. So that frieze that they're hand painting now in Italy came from a wall painting at Villa Caserta outside of Naples, and they're hand painting it. So I bought the fabric, shipped it to Italy. They painted the border, and the field pattern actually came from their archive, the Mongiardino archive, and so we combined the two. And Sandro, in the gray hair, actually studied with Mongiardino, and he is the sort of master in the workshop who teaches all the young men there and women how to do things Mongiardino style. Anyway, so now this is my reading room here in Charlottesville, and it's off my library, and I have my San Patriano there. We love them.
Oh, the best.
Yeah, and we got to go. Missy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The best.
So again, when you go back to like house museums and things like that, I don't think I've ever been in a house museum that was conceived basically of a piece. Everything in the place in Villa Carlos in Villefranche in the south of France.
This is my favorite house in the world.
Yeah, I mean it's everything, every hinge, every faucet, every embroidery, every piece of painting, everything, all the bronzes was just conceived holistically. And I've been there a couple times and just have to go back and commune with all the detail. So I had this picture in my files, this, what is it, on your left? Okay, my left too, duh. And I pulled it out one day and we're in the office and I said, I think this is going to be the embroidery on my living room curtains. And so we drew it out. Michael Smith custom dyed the silk taffeta for us. It's not exactly that color, but close. And we sent the fabric to the curtain maker. The curtain maker sent it to Ranjit Ahuja in India. His workshops embroidered my wall painting from Carlos onto my curtains. And then the curtains came back to the curtain maker, and then they're up the street. So I can't wait to go back because I know there's something else waiting for me there, to interpret somehow. So again, that TMI moment, I have a thing about stags. I think they are just majestic creatures, majestic. And on your left is Chateau Annette, that huge stag on the top of the gate. The one in the middle is one of a pair from Bowood, sort of sitting there looking at each other, protecting the house, looking at the landscape, really incredible. And then the one on the right was amazing. Pierre Frey introduced a new collection in Paris a couple years ago, and they invite all the designers there, and some of you were probably there. I walked into this room, I thought I was gonna faint. About 30 stags up high, in plaster, carved in relief, with different French crests on them, with real antlers. I mean, it was a true hunting trophy room. Anyway, really got me. I can tell it didn't get you as much, but that's all right. I love it. You had to be there. Anyway, so I have this thing about stags. So fast forward, I wrote an article for Veranda about, I wrote a couple articles for them about rooms I loved. One was Givenchy's dining room at his chateau, Les Jonchets. And on the mantle is a bronze stag that was part of an Italian fountain. And then it came up at auction at Christie's. And I remember, my husband always says to me, so what's the story on the auction? He always wants to know what I'm bidding on. And I said, well, I got something I'm gonna have to take somebody to the mat on. And my husband, being a college wrestler, understood what I meant, that, when you want it, you want it. And the hammer goes down when the hammer goes down. So anyway, I got my stag that was on Givenchy's dining room mantle, the
Wow.
one that I wrote the article about. And I keep calling it a her, even though I know it's a him. But she's so animated and ready to go. And not exactly recumbent, because she looks like she's ready,
Right.
he's ready to take off. Anyway, that is who greets all of my visitors in the foyer of my house here in Charlottesville. And I love him. And I did take him to the mat. And as a result, couldn't bid on two other things because I blew the wad
You blew
right
the
there.
wad.
Yeah, blew the wad. So I went to a party at Hotel de Bourrienne, which is a pure directoire house in Paris. And it was lived in by Fortuné Hamlin, who was a rather naughty Saloniste in that period. You know, back when they wore muslin dresses and they oiled them up and there was left nothing to the imagination. And she'd go out on the street in public like that. But she was, you know, she was great. She knew how to have a party and have a good time. I loved this house. I loved directoire, period. So I took 1,000 pictures. But then I said, you know what? I got to go back because it was dark in the party and I couldn't see everything. So Suzanne was with me. And I called the concierge and I said, find out who owns Hotel Bourrienne. I need to go there tomorrow morning and see it in the daylight. So he found them. And she arrived on her bicycle. And we all had a private tour during the day. She was totally divine. She and her husband bought de Bourrienne. She's got a beautiful business right next door that does great blouses. And his corporation is upstairs, but then they've totally restored the downstairs. So I gave these pictures to James Ellen Smith and said, this is going to be my bathroom. I have to have Fortuné Hamlin's details in my bathroom. So he painted my perfume burner above my door. He painted all around the arch of my mirror. And that's that on the bathroom. But so this goes back to that first slide of taking pictures and thinking about the next trip. So whenever I wrap wherever I am, I take pictures of all my hotel keys. And I put them down, I do a little styled moment, you know, and I take a picture and I have every hotel key photographed wherever I've been, except for those nasty looking things they do today that are plastic, you know, that scan the thing. But we try to make them attractive. But this is what reminds me of the next thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are we on time? Just curious. A couple questions, great.
Well, so Kimberly, we're going to do a couple questions, then they're going to serve. Everybody can make a pit stop and then come back and, okay.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Should I start with a question?
Yeah, you start.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have lots of questions, but you all answered most of them through this whole thing. I mean, I think the two of you, I know you do a lot of trips with your friends, and I know you travel a lot with Suzanne. Have you and Lisa traveled together?
To India.
To India. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about the first time you went?
Can I say one thing and then you answer?
Because you're very different in the way you do this.
No, because Charlotte and I both have energy that we don't take breaks. We just go, 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 go. And we don't like the people that have to slow down. And
herding cats
yeah,
is
exactly.
not my favorite thing.
Actually, these trips are exhausting, truly, but fun.
We don't slow down and we go, go, go. But the funny thing is, when I got back to Dallas and I was with one of my really dear friends who is just lovely, she goes, you know, I had the best time. It was wonderful. And she goes, but you know, I realized I let the New Yorkers, like I waited till Charlotte Moss and Katie Ritter and everyone had their stacks of things. I knew there'd be enough left for me.
Oh, when we were shopping.
Because it was just, the guide said that in his 25 years of taking groups, he had never seen so much shopping in his life. So much shopping. And it was really funny though, but there were no problems. Everyone got along, but there was a pecking order that just went. It was a tacitly understood that certain people had priority and everyone else was very well mannered and let them go for it.
And there were two different vans.
Am I right?
Accordingly.
Right?
Yeah, it was really fun.
So,
It was fantastic.
for the people here who maybe haven't started these journeys of travel, what is your advice? I mean, do you go on a group thing? Do you go with the museum? Do you go with the Sew Museum or the ICAA? I mean, what's the best way to do it? Because I actually feel like a little intimidated at times. Like, I love to travel, but I haven't been to Cambodia, and I haven't been to all these places. So what's the best way to do it?
Do you want to answer, Charlotte?
No, you do. Take it away, Lisa.
Well, I prefer to pick my people, but I have been on big trips because I was so desperate to see the places. And you find your way. You know, there's always some interesting person that you're going to love seeing, or there's going to be someone you're going to love learn from. And you just have to be there. And there might be someone you hate, but you just learn to deal, because it's not worth missing the opportunity. You know,
And you might make some great friends.
I'll never forget, like, when my father died, it was ages ago. I just wanted to see things, and I signed up for World Monuments trips, and I was like the youngest person. I didn't know many people, but, you know, I made lifelong friends. And I think it really gets down to your attitude and your ability to adapt and how much you really want to see things. And it's just worth the sacrifice.
Yeah.
However, I plan trips, and it's always full unless you know me. You know, so I don't really always practice what I preach, but I think everyone needs the experience of just going out there and wanting to see
So
something.
you plan all of, like, when you're going
Does
to
that
India,
make
you
sense?
plan it, right? You plan your own trips. Or do you
Not
have
now.
help?
I mean, not then. I mean,
Yeah.
I went on many trips, group trips,
Right.
many. In the Institute of Classical Architecture, I've been on trips with Suzanne, and they're wonderful people. And you have inside access, and you have experts. And it's just, you might not love everyone, and you might make the friend for life. I mean, I have great friends that I've met through these big trips.
I think that's
before.
one of the greatest benefits.
And you have to be positive about it.
Yeah.
You will meet people. I've met wonderful people on these trips.
Yeah, you find
Yeah.
you find your people.
Yeah.
You know, and there are people that really want to learn, and then there are people that just want to check a box, and it's very obvious from the first day because they got to go get their hair blown out, and we're going to go to the Duchess of so and so's house for dinner, but they're going to be late because they had to go get their hair blown out, and that just doesn't work on a trip. So. Sister, learn how to blow your own hair because we're going on a trip. You know?
But then they're the ones that have to have a nap. That's what
A
drives
nap.
me crazy. People that have to
nap
have
before the trip.
The
You nap
downtime
before the
makes
trip
me
and after the
crazy.
trip, right?
It makes me crazy, the
Yeah.
downtime.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
we are so kindred spirits on that front.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And I think that you have trips that you plan yourself and you do with your friends, and as Suzanne and I do every year in January, and then you do other trips, and then there are just some I just always have an instinct about when people say, "Do you want to take that museum trip, that trip?" And I got to go at my own pace. I've got to go at my own pace.
Wait, Alexa has a question.
I have a big question.
Yes.
Footwear in the modern age.
Honey, it's not going to be the things you got on
Alexa's
right
asking
now.
about footwear.
Yeah.
Because I can only sit in my heels at this point.
ASICs.
So what do we do?
ASICs.
Okay.
We're wearing sneakers?
Oh,
I can't wear
okay.
sneakers.
I can.
My father is dying.
I know, but I have a broken
I cannot
foot.
wear sneakers. I find another shoe.
Normal shoes.
No, but I thought that I had solved the problem with the Birkenstock because it's flat. This past trip to India, I looked down and my feet were in a pool of blood. And I got online and ordered some sneakers. I don't know if I'll actually wear them, but I might have to take them for safety. It's a problem.
I'll take a slip in any day.
It's a problem.
Okay, so, and then we just dress up everything else?
Well, you got to have a fanny pack or a body.
Oh, no,
a
I don't. I
crossbody or
won't do.
something.
I will not do a fanny
No.
pack.
No. Look,
No,
I don't
no.
do fanny packs either. But a good crossbody, you got to consolidate everything.
You know, I think what you do, honestly, even on these big trips, there's only a few days that are that hard on your feet because a lot of it's getting in and out of buses and going in houses and gardens. So you just take an extra pair sometime. Because I'm allergic to tennis shoes. I'm allergic to fanny packs, all of that. So
Well, maybe that's the
I
issue.
understand.
I'm allergic. I didn't know it.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
And what's the perfect number of days, especially if you're working?
Perfect number of
It depends
days.
on if you're by yourself or if you're with somebody else. What's the max days we've done?
Not the max.
A week.
The perfect.
Oh, the perfect? I don't know if there is a perfect.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
4 days in Ireland, bouncing around with a little tiny
Yeah.
escort together.
Yeah.
That was really something. That was fun and laughing. But I don't know, a week, 10 days max.
Yeah, 10 days.
10
Oh, yeah.
days.
Yes.
It's hard because,
You need to see everybody's resume
Yeah.
before you get on that 10-day trip.
you know,
Wait, Charlotte, I know you just you were just in Greece. What's your next trip? We have to go to Tangier.
Well, Tangier's Tangier's on the list. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done Egypt. It's awesome. No. So, I'm at a certain age, and there's only a certain amount of backtracking I want to do because there's so many other places to explore. I haven't been to the Galapagos. Everybody says it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Lisa?
well, I want to revisit places that I was too young to appreciate it and see things. Like, I really want to do a deep dive into Vienna and Budapest and Prague and Krakow and all those places, because when I went as a tourist, or I wasn't as curious then, and also I think it's such a changing world. I just want to see that world.
Well, there's a lot of
I think
places we
that's a
can't
really-
go.
But I
right
think
now.
that's a really interesting point. That a lot of times, as maybe as college students or something, we went to a place and we experienced it, and it's on our quote list of having done. Mm-hmm. But when you go back and this is the greatest thing about travel, is that you bring different eyes to it. Mm-hmm. And when you bring different eyes to it, you bring new things away from it. Mm-hmm. And I think you're bringing an informed position to those places, because when we get older, we do a little more homework.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're also
like-
writing the check ourselves. It's not
Yeah.
apparent. And so you're really picky.
Yeah.
Well, in all fairness, when you're younger, you haven't read the things and studied things like you
Yeah.
haven't. Like, I really want to go to Vienna again, and I've been.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go with you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are.
Everybody, my name is John Bossard, and I just wanted to thank you all again for being here with us today at Farmington and celebrating all the conversations with Charlotte. And I am so pleased today to have on the stage with me Meg Braff and Jane Scott Hodges. Meg is from Tupelo, Mississippi, and moved to New York City to attend Parsons after graduating from Vanderbilt University. She is married to Doug Braff and raised their 4 boys in Locust Valley, New York. Meg has 2 wonderful shops in Locust Valley and on Georgica Avenue in West Palm Beach, Florida, where she also carries her fabric and wallpaper lines as well as her office. Her interior design business is based in West Palm Beach. Jane Scott Hodges is the founder of Leontine Linens, the luxury brand known for redefining couture linens in contemporary living. Leontine will celebrate 30 years this year. Jane Scott is known for her innovative product designs and commitment to heritage-driven craftsmanship. All of Leontine linens are proudly made by the Eleanor Beard Studio in Harrisburg, Kentucky. Jane Scott is a Kentucky native and resides in New Orleans with her husband Philip and their wired-haired Pointing Griffon Mildred.
Who will be featured?
Their children Tally and Will Pike, newly married to a UVA boy,
'Cause
and
3
son
UVA
Natalie
boys.
live in Dallas. So here we are today, and we're going to talk about entertaining. And what does entertaining mean to, especially these two, but something for you all to take away for your own entertaining at home. So I just want to kick off the conversation and start by saying, what is the importance of hosting a party and opening your home to others? How do you guys feel about that, and what's important to you?
Well, I think after the day we've had today and all that we've heard, I think it has so much to do with legacy and with experience and with the things that we've learned or we've traveled to see, and then we want to bring everyone together, of course, in different circumstances, which we'll go over, different occasions, and celebrate all the wonderful things we get to do together or share the knowledge or the times we've spent.
That's right. I also think that entertaining, and especially entertaining in your home, is probably the best way that you can show appreciation and gratitude to your family and friends and your guests that are staying with you or whatever. I feel like, it's sometimes hard to get the ball rolling. You move into a new house and you're like, I'm terrified of having my first dinner party. But I feel like, it's not about perfection. It's really about just doing it. I think over the years we look back and happy that we did it.
Right,
So,
just having friends over and being able to share and then have the opportunity to create a place for you to have yet another creative outlet.
yes.
So when it comes to the creativity part, I really would like to know, when you start to think about hosting a party, do you want to show them the first picture so that they can sort of get an idea of where you start? Theme, guest, location, all of that sort of stuff?
Sure. Well, to answer your question, for me, it's sort of about numbers and about occasion. So I sort of figure out when I'm going to have a party, someone either asks you to host a party for someone as a guest of honor, or maybe you're just having a party for your friends or a special birthday. I try to figure out what's the guest count. Like, do I need to have 10 people? Do I need to have 20 or 30 people? And then that informs where I'm having the dinner. If it's going to be in my dining room or on my terrace, or if it's a girls' lunch for 8, it might be in my breakfast room. So I start with that, and then all the other things kind of fall into place. I feel like, I have a pretty good party pantry. I can whip up some tablecloths or placemats, but that's kind of where I start the process, is just knowing my numbers and just sort of figuring out what I can manage. So
I have a chartreuse living room, so I love your breakfast room in Locust Valley. I haven't stayed with you there. I have stayed with you in Palm Beach.
Yes.
But I have a chartreuse living room where I do a lot of parties because I can only seat 10 people in my dining room, really. Maybe I can get 11 bottoms in there if I use little benches. But so if I have a bigger event, it's always going to be something where I'm doing a buffet, and then, we'll be in this chartreuse anyway, living room. So I love that color. But my formula starts, of course,
well, we know where you start.
with a napkin. How does one pick a napkin? I will confess right away that I learned about these linen boards from one Charlotte Moss. So staying with her in the Hamptons one summer, I saw these incredible boards where she stored all of her linens. So there you have it, always learning from those around us and that we get to share special times with in their houses. But here's my indulgent closet. It's embarrassing, maybe. It's an embarrassment of riches. But I'm glad that the tablecloths at the bottom look kind of messed up in a wreck. So anyway.
I have major envy. Okay.
I think if you do keep your linens organized, then when you start pulling your dishes and china and how you're going to want to set the table or set the scene for a buffet, that you can kind of start there and you can pull your napkins out. They're all starched in order. I know everyone's drawers look like this.
Placemats or tablecloths?
Oh, I love the tablecloths. I love William Wayne in New York. I'll go in and grab a bunch of those block print tablecloths. I know
I sometimes just take a bolt of fabric and roll it out.
Make a tablecloth, yeah. So tablecloths for buffet, placemats for seated, usually for me.
I'd say about the same.
Tucking in sometimes. It depends on the dinner. It depends on the occasion.
I think it's the size of the dinner, too.
And if at your dining room table, I think I'd use placemat. Oh, so this is my dining room where I said I have a small table. I love my dining room. It's intimate and it's warm. And, if I'm having friends for dinner, it's nice to kind of tuck into there. Here I'm set up for a luncheon and with my trays. So I love this trick of the trays. And a plate for a buffet is great, but you get a little more real estate. These plastic trays are from Target. I think they're listed as like wine and cheese trays. But anyway, I bought like 25 of them. So it gives you a little more real estate when you do kind of spread around the house. I love this idea for a luncheon just because people pop in, they have to come and go. all the things. So they don't show up, you've got place cards moving around. So I think this is just a really nice way to accommodate, even if you're having a book signing or something, we'll talk about that. For a friend or someone coming into town. So here I've got my napkins have to be beautifully displayed. I usually put the forks in a julep cup. I know y'all have plenty of those in this area. So you can just stick your silverware in your julep cups. I love the idea, thinking about talismans of travel or the things that you collect along the way that you can, add to your table, even if you don't have a fabulous florist on call. And I do, because I don't do flowers. I'm fully admitting that I'm not doing the flowers. But if you don't, I just think there's so many ways to kind of creatively zhuzh up your table.
I love the trays. I think it's a way of making it casual, but very thoughtful. It's a thoughtful host that comes up with that idea.
Can't put your drink on there, okay? It's not like that. But at least you've got a little more coverage.
A little lap supper, which is absolutely perfect. It's the best way to get as many people as you can.
Exactly.
And what about traditions and that sort of thing for you guys? Like, what are the things that are super important for you to hold on to that have been passed down from your family or that mean a lot to you as far as entertaining and parties that you put together?
Well, I think I'll start with that one. My grandmother used to host a little Christmas lunch for me starting when I was about 8 years old, and for me and my cousin. And so I think she really just wanted to be sure that we knew how to behave at a table.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were each allowed to invite 5 friends. It was a total of 10 girls around her big dining room table in Corinth, Mississippi. And it was, I still remember it, and I have some very foggy pictures that I couldn't use in the slideshow. But it was one of my earliest memories of entertaining and sort of showing that type of graciousness to your guests and being inclusive. And then going on from there, Doug and I do kind of a Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving on Wednesday night. We've done it for the past maybe 15 years. And the group changes every year. It's about 60 people, but it's mostly kids and their parents, my children's friends and their parents. And we just love doing that. And I kind of do like a beef bourguignon and salads and roasted vegetables. It's really simple, big buffet around my dining room table, and everyone just sits everywhere. So I'd say that's kind of our new tradition that we've started as our family. So.
And are there? What about for you, Jane Scott? Do you have traditional things that you like to do?
Well, I'm looking at this beautiful slide of beautiful Meg with her flowers, and I'm like, these look like Mardi Gras flowers to me. So these look purple, green, and gold. We have our occasions can be very different where we live. But I do think growing up, this idea of gathering, and we had this wonderful neighbor in Georgetown, Kentucky called Mrs. Shropshire, and she was so beautiful and elegant, and she had a grandson that would come visit from Chicago, and so she would try to sit us all down at her table because she really wanted this grandson from Chicago, to learn all this. And of course, inevitably with boys at the table, there became a food fight and peas are going, and she was just aghast. But I remember it fondly, and I grew up in a small town on, with one main street, and I feel like, that you do spend so much time at home, and you kind of do in Corinth and these small towns, and you learn that hospitality at home. And I think the legacy conversation that we started with today, that's all resonating for me about those experiences. And I remember many fun Halloweens, like my mother in like a Miss Piggy costume on the front porch, and like the whole Halloween we talked about all the incredible occasions. Yes. One thing we started doing when we lived in Kentucky, we raised our kids there after Katrina, and we had a gumbo and gobbles party on Friday after Thanksgiving, because after you're with your family at Thanksgiving, maybe everybody needs a little place to break and go out, and so we would have this gumbo party, and everyone, you could bring your house guests, you can bring all those extra people that you needed to find an occasion, so that was something fun we used to do.
Awesome.
But back to entertaining at home.
Yes.
And sort of how different ways we do it. Jane Scott and I have a few at-home slides. And this is Florida. And what I do sort of tend to get into a little bit of a formula in terms of the number of chairs and how I can seat a dinner. And this has been a good way of doing it. We have 4 or 5 square tables that we put together to make a long table, so we can easily adjust the size and the seating arrangement. And it's sort of set up around a fountain, so it's sort of it has good atmosphere. And we have some Jane Scott linens here, the Leontine linens front and center. And this is just a chintz tablecloth that I like to just roll out a bolt of fabric and have them hem it up and
I like that.
make a new tablecloth for every
if you
party.
got extra fabric, make a tablecloth.
Yeah, I mean,
who doesn't have a bolt of fabric in there?
Exactly. And this was a little something from Margot Shaw, who's the editor of Flower Magazine, who came to Locust Valley a couple of years ago, and we had a very fun and flowery lunch for her. Lots of flowers on the table and the tablecloth, and that was really
no pressure
good memory.
With the flowers.
No pressure.
No pressure.
And then back to the traditions. This is my Christmas lunch, mimicking my grandmother's lunch, which I do every December, sort of the Sunday before Christmas, before I go back to Florida. And my friend Lindsay and I do this lunch, and we cook it ourselves. It's not that good. But we have our Let's Jingle aprons, and we do a little party favor. It's probably, it's usually an ornament or, some silly cocktail napkins or something like that. But it's kind of a fun little way.
Is that something you like to do often, is just leave something that for your guests to take with them, or is it just mostly holiday, or?
Mostly holiday. I definitely don't do it at every party. I feel like, what do you think? I mean.
Yeah, no. I think if you're having a lunch in New York at a restaurant, it's cute to get some little truffles or pick up some candy, but something cute. So this is kind of fun. This is a table we made in Kentucky. This was made for my 40th birthday, and it was off a barn that had actual barn that had fallen on the back of my parents' farm, and Philip's like, Bill, can I have the barn? Bill said, sure, you can have the barn. My father releases the barn to Philip. Philip has these tables made. Then a few months later, Dad's like, yeah, I want that kind of barn back. Philip's like, no, you cannot get the barn back. It's now tables. But anyway, I don't even know. So these tables have been kind of special. They do take like 7 men to move them in and out of a storage unit. So when I get them over to the house in New Orleans, we kind of make a thing of it. But there's a Christmas setup here with the square placemat.
Thank you.
So
back around to that.
This is a whole thing.
This is a whole thing for me, is the square placemats. I really, I'm a believer in the square placemat. I think that the rectangular placemat's gone a little out of vogue for me. I'm not telling you to throw them away, but you can. And I think a square placemat doesn't a round plate look nice on a square?
Yes.
And it's just, there's the top image. It's not a lot of pressure. You can get that cutlery, okay? You can get it right there on either side of the plate. And I love the square placemat. It's more efficient as you set the table. You can get more people at the table. Multitudes of,
and if you're going to have a round, then at least,
yeah, they're great on round tables. They're great on all-shaped tables.
Overlapping everywhere, yes.
Yeah, you know how it gets awkward. Well, also, don't forget the silencer or the felt liner. I think that's a really important thing with any placemat, even if you keep your rectangular ones. A plate, it helps the opacity. You don't see the table through it. Protects the table. If the plate's warm, it feels better. Everything about it's great. So I love that. And there's Mildred, the wire hair pointing Griffon.
I love these two different tablescapes though, because one is Christmas and the other one is Thanksgiving. And I love how you just made a few changes with the type of chairs. And the napkins and the candles.
The napkins were different. The placemats were the same. Looks like they're alternated. There's a lot going. Who knows? You can mix all your things. I think that's the important lesson also, is knowing to mix things up. Use your different chinas. The colored linen for me really changes the whole experience of the china. So if you have mata-headed tobacco leaf, you have 27 colors in that china. When you put it with an ocean colored napkin instead of a pink napkin, it kind of elevates the table in a really nice way.
Absolutely.
And I also think it's really great because we might not dress up so much to go to friends' houses. We might wear blue jeans. You didn't wear your blue jeans.
I didn't. I wore pants today.
So I think the white linen sometimes seems a little more dressy, but I love it. Yeah, the white hem stitch, you never go wrong. But you'll see me using a lot of the colored linen for that reason.
No, I like how you change the napkins, and I sort of do this thing where I change out my dessert plates and my salad plates. I tend to use a lot of the same dinner plates that kind of work with a lot of different things, and then mix in the different other plates.
So I had this cute young friend having a baby a couple years ago, so I was like, let's have a baby shower, of course. But I said to my best friends, my florist, and I said, Pam, I really want flowers hanging from the chandelier. And she's like, okay. But she did it really elegantly. There were these little vases, and she tied them up there with roses, so she figured it out. Again, I'm having one of my tray lunches. And yeah, for me, this was kind of just about the abundance of the flowers and kind of the way to do it. This woman, this Creole lady who hangs over my fireplace, I put her in a study, and I promised her I was so sorry she had to live up here. And I said, you're going to be the only thing that hangs in this room. So she literally hung in this beautiful velvet upholstered study in Kentucky on her own. So she only hangs here alone also. But anyway, I love her, so she's part of the family.
Well, I love how you set up the buffet. It's like a very important detail, setting up a buffet with the napkins and how you've organized them, and there's a nice flow of it with the plates.
We're going to get you some trays.
And I like the bunch. I need some trays. And I like how you've bunched the flowers on the mantle. That's a really nice arrangement and a nice way of having a multitude of different types of flowers.
Without surfaces.
Yes, exactly.
Well, we were talking about traditions, of course, and then now we're going to talk about charity parties and talk about group parties, and how do you really translate, your entertaining at home to a much larger venue and still make it feel like, this definitely feels like it's hosted by Meg Braff or Jane Scott Hodges?
Well, so the first time I ever co-hosted a benefit was in New York City, and it was actually with Charlotte Moss for the Bone Marrow Foundation, and it was a real watch and learn moment for me. I really had no idea what was going on or what I was doing, and I just basically listened to her and watched and learned from her, because she had done this 100 times. And that was one of the best experiences, actually. It was a very fun party, by the way, Charlotte. But a couple of times recently, more than a few times, I've hosted, the particular one is the Preservation Ball in Newport, Rhode Island. This is every summer in August, and everyone looks forward to it. And it's very multi-generational, which I think is another really great thing about parties in Newport, that they tend to mostly be multi-generational with, your grandparents are there and your, 21-year-old is there. This is about 650 people. And we did little things like we tried to keep it very simple. It's a very grand setting in front of the Elms, which is a Trumbauer house in Newport on Bellevue Avenue. But it's simple but grand. So we tried to keep the details elevated and, properly scaled. And then at the after party was this very large beech tree that we covered with lights and put, great looking wicker furniture under there, and everybody went there to dance after the party. We had a separate DJ, and super fun. And then this is it a few years later. This is last summer, actually. I actually ordered like 650 napkins myself, because the choices were so
limited,
undesirable that the rental company had. So
that's a good thing to talk about.
And I also
need 650 knitter napkins.
I know they're for sale in my store if anybody needs some great looking orange tree napkins. And then the chargers I also ordered from Alibaba for a couple dollars a piece, and so that was good. And now we have a lot of chargers too.
I love the way you did the
But it was sort of a
orange.
L'Orangerie theme. And the other thing we did, again, when you're doing, it's for the charity and you're trying to elevate it, you want it to feel like a party, a very grand party in someone's home, but it's really, you have a tiny little budget and you're trying to make it all look fabulous. But we purchased about 40 orange trees and Versailles planters, and then we had someone in advance of the party purchase them, so that it was sort of no cost to the charity. But it made for a wonderful fragrance, and again, it gave that scale that we needed.
And a great takeaway.
Right, and a really good, it was just wonderful.
And very impactful.
Jane Scott?
Well, I didn't bring any big New Orleans charity functions, but these pretty small dinners I thought maybe would be fun to discuss. I've been able to host this beautiful dinner in Nantucket during Nantucket by Design with Gary McBorney and Bill Richards. And the first year I did it, this was 2 years ago, these photos, Bill and I worked really well together, and I just got to do the table linens and kind of help him make the plan. And I was like, this is going to be great. And then the next year he's like, I want to do it with you again, Jade Scott, because this was so easy and fun. But we are also lucky to know one another and in this business. So Alex Papachristides with Everyday Elegance, those are his baskets there. They're also his baskets in the previous that he graciously let us use for the party. And then this year, this party, we used one of Gary's fabrics for the base of the tablecloths, the gingham fabrics, and I made the runners and the dinner napkins.
And did you embroider the pants yourself to
Well,
match the party?
You know, that was a happy accident. You know, we don't always intend to match our parties, but sometimes we do.
It's subconscious.
It is a subconscious problem. I wore those to my daughter's bridesmaids luncheon, and I was like, well, those will be cute. And then, like, Kevin Sharkey, this dinner, Martha Stewart ended up being at the dinner and being the big star of the weekend. But so Kevin was teasing me holding up the napkin with my pants. Good, just laugh
I
at
love the
yourself.
embroidery on those napkins. That's so.
Thank you. Well, this
so
is
good
like
looking.
Indian hair in China, the Indian basket hair in China. It's really beautiful and multicolor, and so that's, you know, the nod to Nantucket with the baskets and all that. But the China was beautiful, and I hadn't seen that pattern, and I have hair in China myself. But the Indian basket was really fun to have.
I know there are a lot of personal touches here. This is a very pretty, summery,
Well, Meg was there.
elegant
Meg
dinner.
was there.
I was there.
I was
We
like,
had
I'm
a good
sorry,
time.
didn't put in our party pick.
Okay.
Well, this party I know that we were talking about was all about special celebrations and really creating memories for your family and giving you an opportunity to have everyone feel involved and have something to take away to really remember something by. So this is a completely different.
Totally
I love
different.
it.
And this was a really fun party for my mother-in-law, Alice, who's wearing white there. It's her 80th birthday. And this was in Newport, Rhode Island at Marble House. And we, the terrace seats about 160 people. So we kept it to that. Again, back to the numbers thing. And we sort of came up with a color scheme of sort of mint, ochre, and Chinese red. And we ran that through the fabrics that were on the bar tables. I had someone do a watercolor imitation that had a beautiful pagoda that looked actually just like my mother-in-law's curtains in her dining room, which are pretty fabulous, and menu cards and place cards. So it was really fun. She was surprised. My husband was like, I don't know if we can pull off a surprise with my mother because no one is discreet in Newport. Everyone's talking about what they're doing. And only a couple of people did come to her and say, I'm coming to your 80th birthday party on Saturday night. And I quickly said, I think she has dementia. I think she's like, there is no party and no one's coming.
And the cake is so fabulous.
The cake is really fun. My sister-in-law, of course, fought me on that. She's like, why do we need a pagoda cake? I was like, because we do.
Because you can.
It's
Absolutely.
I think a great cake is a really amazing addition to a party.
It gives everybody something to
And the
be
fans are
excited
cute.
about. Yeah, the fans are nice. It was a very warm day in the summer. And then we also did some really adorable Chinese fortune cookies with all my mother-in-law's like funny sayings about my mother-in-law. So that's
adorable.
fun.
And that's a memory to keep for sure.
Definitely.
I mean, and the boys, the gorgeous boys.
All my kids were there, and actually a lot of their friends were there. That was fun. To have a lot of young people.
I love that multi-generational.
Me too.
Because in New Orleans, that's a huge thing. I know it is here too. But this idea of just having, all the
it keeps
nothing like an
everybody
85-year-old
young.
catering on the dance floor to get the night going.
And creating memories with your parents that your friends can share with you later when they're no longer here. It's just such a nice thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Very true.
This is Doug's 60th birthday during COVID at our house in Locust Valley on the terrace. This is sort of one of those moments where, I found out a torrential rainstorm. I mean, torrential, like people couldn't even get out of their cars for the Valley Parker to get them in. It was that bad.
Look how lush the garden looks.
It's very green. It's very green. And we found out exactly how many leaks there were in our awning that night. We had to move a couple table settings left or right to accommodate for the occasional drip. But I took one of my fabrics and printed it in sort of this black and white palm frond fabric. It was a Cuban theme. So we kind of leaned into that with the music and a little bit the menu.
Cute cake.
And
Another cute cake.
Yeah, it's a good cake for Doug. And my husband really didn't grow up celebrating his birthday. He kind of grew up in a family where birthdays were just not celebrated that much. And so for so many years, he said, I'm uncomfortable celebrating my birthday. And so after his 60th, I was like, we're celebrating it every year. We're just gonna, we're gonna do it. You'll just find your comfort level at some point. So here we are. And then this was his 65th. So this is just.
So he got really used to those parties. He
did.
He got okay with it. He's like, give me another party.
Yeah, it was
well,
great.
He's so cute.
So he was very excited about it actually. And it was a 60s
beehive.
theme.
Yeah, look at your beehive.
I had a hairdresser come over for my 5 house guests, and we all had crazy fun here. And I did sort of a fun marble, tablecloth, and we spray painted all of my chargers.
Oh.
And I had some
Cute.
napkins made up, and the flowers, we just leaned into a lot of, shades of blue. And everybody kind of dressed appropriately with fun Poochie and lots of fun 60s outfits. And I just did paper lanterns all down the terrace and had little cutouts made for Doug. Actually, I had 10 that were life-size, and he loves shooting. And so I have a whole bunch of him, shooting and then holding pheasants. And, so you were greeted at the door with, like, Doug's.
Doug's all his different dimensions of Doug.
Exactly.
This is kind of a combo situation, but about a week ago, one of my friends was turning 65, and I'd been after her for a few weeks to have what are you doing for your birthday? Should we do something for your birthday? Let's make a plan for your birthday, Doe. And she was very reluctant. Oh, I like to do my own birthday lunch. And so finally, I got back after Labor Day, and I called her, and I said, Dorothy, I don't have any plans for your birthday. And Charlotte's going to love this. I said, and she goes, well, I just haven't been able to do it. I just haven't been able to pull it together. And I said, well, Joe, I've offered to have a party. We're having a party. And she goes, I feel like you're yelling at me, Jane Scott. And I said, oh, I'm on speakerphone. I was like, anyway, we're going to have the party. So this is how this party went. This is great because this is what we all love to do. And I said, well, let's have 12 girls. Let's have a little cocktail party. It'll be fine. And she said, okay, perfect. Oh, Jane Scott, that's perfect. And so every day I got like 4 people's names texted to me like, should we be having blah, blah, blah? Oh gosh, I have pickleball tonight with blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, more. So I think we had 30 people. And I was like, well, now I'm going to call a caterer, and things are going to up its game a little bit. But it was so fun. I put balloons by the front door. There we are. Some people walking in. I have a great cake lady. I love the cake. She has these macaroon. She has French and regular macaroon. I don't know. We can have a whole debate in Richmond, in Virginia about how to say it. But then my friends, Rockschmidt and Coleman, that I've sued, live in New Orleans. They have this gorgeous shop, Sued. And I went in on Saturday before. I said, Richard, having a party for my friend Doe. Can I borrow those lemon trees? And, well, those containers too, I'd buy them, but where would I store them? Anyway, he's like, Jane Scott, take them, it's fine. So we put up this really fun, cute party for Dorothy, and it was easy and quick and had beautiful starch napkins right out of the armoire.
Love it. Yeah. I think that's the key,
into a different basket.
Just doing
and
something,
some pretty Apware plates.
When the opportunity presents itself and you have a friend who,
it doesn't have to be
no one thought to pull it together. That's nice that you did that.
It doesn't have to be all prepped up and ready to go. And that band shot I snuck in there was from a different party, so we didn't have live music. But in New Orleans, I think it's fun.
Yes.
If you have a cute jazz band, you can add a little bit of interest to a night with a little music.
Well, we're going to talk about the music a little bit later here, but what are your feelings on live music versus a playlist or something like that?
All of the above.
I agree. Just whatever suits the occasion. If you have a great idea of live music, I think it's great to pull that in if it's something that just makes it that much more festive. But I'm also really good with a great playlist.
Well, for Christy and Susie, when they had the Scout Guide, I think it was I don't remember what anniversary it was. 10. And they were having it in New Orleans. And I'm like, I'll host it. I'll have everybody over. So I hosted it. And as a surprise, I hired a drum line. And this drum line comes through the front door and just bam, just whack. It was crazy. It was really cute and fun. So that, when you live in New Orleans, you're going to have to pull these things out of the hat every now and then. This was a dinner party we did, and this idea was kind of using spaces we never use. This is to the left of the front door. It's a space I never would really often entertain in, but we put the jazz band upstairs on the balcony, and you can see in that top slide them from the inside of that room looking out. And then had little cocktails in the front, which honestly I haven't done it again. But please use those spaces outside that you don't always use.
I love
Consider
the band
that
on top. That's great. On a
but
terrace.
that's really cool.
Special.
Yeah, that was cute. And then the beautiful invitations. We should talk about paper and invitations and paperless. We get to that. I guess we got that coming. Okay.
All right. Okay, this is just a fun lunch in Florida. I threw this in because Jane Scott and I and so many people here are in the interior design business, and we're always having fun collaborations or, entertaining our design friends and so forth. And this was a collaboration that I did with Wheezy Towels this past year, which was really a fun experience. And we hosted a lunch with the girls from Wheezy and a bunch of my friends and other designers. And people were dressing in the robes and like putting the towels on their heads like turbans. And it was a really fun moment. And that's, again, I rolled out a wheel of fabric.
Yeah,
from
those tablecloths are epic. They're really good.
Line.
I'm like, we have to swap.
We have to do a swap-a-roo.
Yeah, we have to do a swap-a-roo. This is a story that just came out in Flower this month that actually this party was for the Mint Museum. The Crown Society was coming to New Orleans. And my best friend happens to work at the Mint Museum, and it happened to be her birthday. So I said, well, guess what? I'll just have all y'all to my house for dinner. Why would you go to Commander's Palace? These are the things I say. No, don't come for a drink. Let's do dinner. But that's really fun. And I am always feted and treated so royally when I go to Charlotte and well cared for that I was like, these are my friends. I'll have them all over. So it was a great group. And for this, I have a blooper on this one. I borrowed these tablecloths from my neighbor who I adore, and Katie is a banker. She's a very serious banker, but she calls me for linens, and then we figured out we had the same china. And so sometimes I'll go help her set her tables, and sometimes I say, can I borrow 12, of your Janori plates in turquoise? So we have a little deal. So I knew she had these tablecloths, and I said, oh, Katie, can I borrow the tablecloths? And I think maybe one of these is mine. I don't know. Anyway, so I went to get them, and I knew they weren't round. I mean, I 100% knew that they were oblong tablecloths. But somehow I just convinced myself it was going to be fine. I mean, they were going to fit the round table. It was fine. And then when I put them on, I'm like, it's not fine. Like, it's not fine. You can see the whole side of the table and the legs. And now it's like 4. My guests are my good friends are now, and her sister, they're now at the house. And I was like, I'm fine. And then I'm like, Philip, call my husband. I'm like, you're going to have to go to Perrier Party Rentals. And this is the way I speak when I can't be, anyway, I'm not being clear. And I said, those Saints Gold, that hideous color, that really bad color, Saints Gold. We have so many of those in inventory at Perrier Party Rentals. Please go get me 3 round tablecloths that I can put underneath. And they're saffron, okay? The color's saffron. It's a very pretty color, but I was like so focused on Saints Gold tablecloths. He's like, what are you talking about? And look, you don't even know they're there. Who knew? I just wasted 3 minutes of your life telling you that I've had a whole mistake that you would never know about. Lesson also. Nobody cares. Nobody knows. Yeah. You're having your friends over. Yeah. You're going to have a great time. Do you
think it's a Southern thing that people like loan their china or napkins or
probably.
Like
I think
it's such a thing that
no one's walking down Park Avenue with like 12 plates like, let me drop these off at Meg's. I guess you could
I think it's a very Southern thing.
It's a very Southern thing, but you got to share.
My whole growing up, that was always a thing.
I love it. I have 2 girlfriends that will drive 200 miles to like loan each other, blue and white, no matter what the occasion is, or a silver platter, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
it's such a nice thing to do.
Sorry,
so there's Millie again. That's how she gets a shout
out. Love
the
color palette. Yeah, we've such a good, fun, unexpected color palette.
And then the dress excellently matched. My menu cards.
And your cocktail.
So I do have a wonderful girl that I love, and she'll do, on pretty short notice, but better if I give her more time, pretty menu cards and place cards. And, we were talking about place cards, and
I sort of like seating a dinner.
Yeah.
If it's maybe
if it's a dinner, you want to seat it.
I do tend to seat it. And, it's kind of, occasionally people move the place cards, which is really not a good idea. But I had
Do you get invited back after that?
I was just at a wedding actually this weekend where
you're telling me that people
cards.
move the place cards like in your own home?
Yes.
Well, this was a dinner party I gave a long time ago in Newport, and maybe 28 people, and one of the husbands came up to me and said, I have to move the place cards. He's like, my wife was engaged to this person that she's seated next to, and they haven't seen each other in 12 years.
That's valid.
And I was like, okay, that's totally fine. We're going to move the table. I'm going to move you to a different table. We're going to just take it. No, but it does happen. I was at a wedding this weekend where people moved the place cards.
That's bad.
At the table. I could not believe that. So
how would they
Not
know?
good.
Not good. Anyway.
This is
gorgeous.
just another fun Palm Beach dinner, actually with McKinnon Harris, which our Palm Beach partner they've been wonderful to partner with at my shop. And so we wanted to kind of celebrate that. And we had a very fun cast of characters at this dinner. A lot of designers who I've known for a long time and architects. And it was just fun during Design Week to sort of celebrate all of our design friends. We're lucky to be part of that group. So.
And you have to talk about your special waiter in Palm Beach.
He has so many party tricks. It's unbelievable. But this is his best party trick. And he walks around with 2 bottles of wine like this. And he's got the rosé. He really prefers Miraval because it's such a big base, and it fits his head perfectly.
Yeah.
But
fits his head perfectly. I mean, we don't have this guy in New Orleans.
He's
we
a lot
should.
of fun. You need to.
He's a fixture
import
in Palm
him.
Beach.
No, he's it's the Palm Beach thing. I don't know if do y'all have a guy like that here? No. Okay.
So
you'll have to go to Palm Beach to Meg's house.
You'll have to come for one of our parties.
This was the original setting of the farm tables. So this was when we lived in Kentucky, and I thought this looked like a very Virginia picture. So this is where we lived. Where we raised our children. But anyway, this was a dinner, and this is another funny story where I opened my mouth. So because we were not living in New Orleans, we were living in Kentucky at the time, and some friends of ours, the Brennan family, was invited to do a James Beard dinner in Kentucky. And I was like, why don't y'all come to dinner Friday night? And I was like, Philip, we're having the whole Brennan group for dinner before they do a dinner for James Beard.
No
Let's
pressure.
do farm to table. Anyway, they were so happy to have someone fix them dinner. I mean, that's the other point, right? Like, there are people who just are just so grateful, that you think to do something for them, even if you kind of got yourself in a pickle. Yeah, they're happy to eat a pickle at your house. But this was just craft paper with rope and kind of more casual outdoor setting, and it was a summer solstice. It was actually the summer solstice. So it was really, really fun.
Flowers are
so
gorgeous.
I wanted to show that origin of the barn tables where they came.
So this was sort of a special celebration for my son, Charles Braff, who turned 21. He graduated, by the way, my 3 youngest all graduated from Virginia. So this was my last one to graduate in May. But summer before last, he turned 21, and he said, I asked all my boys, do you want to have a 21st birthday? And they all said no. And then Charles said, I'd really like to have a 21st birthday party at our house. I was like, well, that sounds like fun. Let's do it. And he's like, well, I was thinking, he's like, how many people should I invite? I was like, well, and I was imagining like having Moe's Southwest Grill cater this or something, And I was like, I don't know, 60 people, something like that. And he's like, okay, great. So he sends out a text to all his friends. He's done up an invitation, he sends it all out. And he's like, I got great news. He's like, only 60 people are coming. He's like, I invited 90. But he's like, you always say you over-invite for your parties because not everybody will come. So he's like, I over-invited, but I have at least 60 people coming. I was like, well, great, okay. And then he said, but I want it to be just like Dad's 60th.
I want a seated proper dinner.
So I was like, okay, we'll pivot on that. So he seated the dinner. He showed me how to use a seating app, which I had never done before. Seated the whole dinner himself. He had friends from boarding school and college and grade school. It was really a lot of fun.
Well, that sort of makes us want to talk a little bit about like technology and entertaining today, and what is that like, and when it gets to the idea of sending paperless posts versus engraved invitations, or having the technology of a seating chart app and these kinds of things.
Well,
how has technology changed, entertainment?
I think the paperless post is great, perfectly acceptable.
It's super
People
efficient.
prefer it.
Yeah.
The aisle planner, which must be what he used. So I just use that for a wedding. We have a couple wedding slides for S&Gs. But I wouldn't use that for fun.
Yeah.
I called it.
I was not
What did I
involved
call
in
it?
seating.
Aisle planner. Wait.
Aisle planner. Yeah.
I called it aisle runner. It drove Tally crazy. Like, go to that aisle runner. She's like, it's not aisle runner. It's aisle planner. Seating a wedding. Okay.
But anyway, so this was a fun celebration for Charles and his friends, and they all just had a fabulous time. And the police ultimately did come, and a couple of times. But my husband's
Three times,
but really good at dealing with those situations. So anyway,
the fourth son, you're done. Oh yeah, here we are. We're at the wedding.
The wedding.
So yes, when Meg said that Charles voluntarily used aisle planner, I was like, wow, I wasn't even allowed to touch that. But details are something we all focus on and love, and then we decide the things that we do love, and then we go to plan a wedding and, you know, fully get immersed. We get it's immersive. But we did some beautiful different napkins. We had 10 sets of napkins, so there would be 40 alike. So the head table for the bride had a napkin, and then, you know, 4 other tables would have like napkins. We did the satin curtains as kind of a nod to Leontine for our hand-quilted satin quilts.
How many yards
and,
of satin was?
Well, that is a tent liner. I had nothing to do with that. Everyone's like, swaths of tent liner. I'm like, it's a tent liner. I don't know. And it was this color nude, but they could light it. It looked very lavender and pretty and kind of pinky and changed during the night. And we did do the seated dinner, but knowing that we just needed, because it was in the country, we needed to get everybody seated, fed, and then up. So it was very, you know, it was 50 minutes, 5-0 for the dinner.
And it rained?
And it rained, and it rained
In a
biblically.
good way. I mean, like, it's good luck if it rains on your wedding.
Good luck.
It rained in my wedding.
They have to say that. But we got through the service. It was beautiful, but then there was a bit of a rill, if you will, kind of through the middle of the tent.
So, in wrapping things up here, I just have a few questions that I'd like you to just kind of ask, answer a little bit. And we already kind of talked a little bit about the paperless post. If we wanted to, you know, it's yes or no.
Yeah.
So yes is good.
I think yes. I think there's a place for everything.
Signature cocktail, yes.
I mean, if it's a theme party, you know, but
I like it when people do it. I don't always do it, but I love it when other people do it. So.
Seated or buffet, we sort of touched on that a little bit.
yeah, and it definitely depends on the numbers, but like we were saying with buffet, you know, you don't always have to sit by the same person. That's good.
That's right.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about who doesn't show up, and that's good.
It's more relaxing.
So it's, you know, sometimes it just really depends on what you're doing.
Hostess gifts, yes or no?
I think if it's something you've premeditated, like sometimes, like lately I've been doing paper guest towels with their initial on it, and I think that's kind of a very useful gift. But I don't think you have to
I'm
take
not
a bottle
big
of champagne every time
believer,
you go to dinner.
yes, on the hostess gift. I feel like people feel like, oh, let me grab that bottle. There's one bottle of wine making its way around America that everybody brings to somebody's door. I mean, if you have bumblebees and you made honey, bring your honey, you know, or made wax candles from your bees.
Cook or
Bring it
cater?
on.
Cater. Sorry.
Oh, I don't cook. Yeah, cater. Next.
We don't cook. We set a main table. But we don't
Co-host
cook.
or single host?
Oh. Y'all decide. It depends.
I think if it's in your own home, it's sort of nice to be in control of a lot of decisions. But if you're doing something big and you really need the help, I think it's
if it's an engagement party, a debutante party, you're going to do it with a group.
That's right.
And I think that gets, interesting. I think you just have to give it to the person who wants to be in charge and let them do it. Yeah. It's hard to rule by committee.
How about arrival time?
Oh, I'm on time.
Yeah, I'm pretty on time
If it's
too.
called at 6:30, you're there at 6:30.
Yeah.
6:30, 6:40.
I mean, in New York, again, not to take down New York, but don't you think in New York they say...
10 minutes late?
No, they say like drinks and then they say dinner, seated at 7. Like they have to tell you when you're going to sit.
Yeah.
Well, we don't do it like that. We show up on time. But do you think you should be late? Do you go early to help your friend? No.
No.
I don't know. I think it depends on the friend.
Thank you guys so much for being here and talking about celebrations with us.
Thank you.
I think
you, Charlotte.
we have some time for some questions. Do we have any questions
Just
out
go to
there?
the other slide.
Look, here's our first question right here.
Oh, hi.
I was always told no smoked salmon and white wine or everyone will breathe horrible breath on you. What are some good warnings?
Warnings?
About your breath?
What not to serve or what's really good to serve?
I mean, I like to serve like a soup if I'm having a buffet because you might have creme brulee, Brolo cups. Does everybody have those? Like cafe brulee? No, like coffee or Dippy-Toss cups that you can serve like soup so people can have that standing around, after they come in. We did talk about bars, where to place a bar.
Yeah.
To pull people away from the heavily trafficked areas.
The flow.
People always go to where the bar is, so you want to kind of pull it towards the back, right? If you put it on the front porch, there you go. Your party just hit your front porch. No one's leaving the bar. Ever. Yeah.
But I like
Other tips?
chicken curry is a great, I think, a crowd pleaser. Everyone seems to like that. I found a really good guide to make souffles for a large number of people. So that has been
Yum.
like a little bit in like my
The souffle.
The new
or
wheelhouse.
quiche is great for lunch.
repertoire
What'd we learn?
as a first course. And then I think if you don't have a lot of, if you have like minimal wait staff, I'd say go room temperature and buffet. And like keep it super simple so that you're not worried about what's coming out of the oven when, or, you know.
Do you think it's one waiter, 10 to 12 people? One waiter per 10 to 12?
I think that's
10.
about right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I just have one final question before we wrap up here.
We need a bartender.
What have
kitchen person.
both of you, if anything, had the opportunity to learn from Charlotte?
Well, it is a watch and learn at all times. I mean, I've known Charlotte for about 20 years. She helped me figure out how to write my first book. I mean, I've learned a lot from her, and not just about like entertaining stuff, but she has been a great, I think, mentor to both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably wouldn't have a book. I don't even know where I'd be right now because you really pushed
I wouldn't have
me.
a book.
I don't.
I shared the with bone marrow too. Charlotte's done a lot for all of us. I think we've all learned to have a beautiful lunch for your friends, take care of your friends, and always.
And you're always educating your friends.
Always. Whether you give us a book or something to take away that we can learn from, it's never, a frivolous thing. It's always something thoughtful and
With intention. Yeah.
with intention. And being here today is also a gift with this beautiful group, all of you all being here, and this whole day of talking about conversations on design and legacy. And I feel like we got to be the party favor, the little end of the day. And so I hope, thank you all for having us. I hope we did something good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.